Yeah,
usual.
but
Okay, you
I
can't.
kind of want to talk more about camping
my,
and zip lines now. Just throwing it out there.
because I'm going to set my title to
camping
camping.
and zip lines.
Yeah. What, Prime?
I'm going to change my title to camping if you do this to me.
Okay, camping and zip lines. There it is.
Oh my gosh! Hold on, the entire YouTube stream is completely broken. Dude,
See,
dude.
Yeah.
Just give me a second.
If you start streaming more, like once you get a few times where you've streamed and stuff, Prime, you'll get the hang of the setting up the streams and stuff. It does take a little while.
Yeah,
Is this how this works?
Episode, what do you think, Casey? Like 200, 300 of the stand-up? We'll
Probably.
probably be able to like click record.
My kids will
and
be
go
in
live.
college at that point by the time we get it down.
We'll be putting them through college. Trash.
Yeah. I'll be taking this stand up from my yacht.
Yeah, exactly. Now
Well,
you're
that's
thinking.
going to be really stressful then if you guys are making bank on this podcast, but Prime can't figure out how to start it. You're like, this is money. Like, this is my money burning away, right?
It's the key feature. The main thing sponsors are looking for is authenticity, and you're like, you cannot fake this level of stupidity.
That's a very, very good point.
All right, everybody, things are ready, and we are ready to start the stand-up, the most authentic podcast of them all. Yes. Today we have with us TJ, resident genius. We have Casey Moratori, Riz expert, and of course Trash Dev, with whom we all love and say very nice things about.
But don't ask about his keycaps, guys.
Do not.
No, we're not talking about keycaps today.
Don't ask about the O key.
Yeah,
Do not
yeah,
ask
no.
what is on the O key.
Do not.
That is the cardinal rule of the stand-up.
So, with that said, we are going to be talking about performance today. And, of course, not only is Casey a Riz expert, he is a mediocre performance man. As at least this is what he says. He says he's not a deep performance guy. He just has some basic ability in it, and he knows things that we don't know. And so we want to hear some good stories from Casey about this, and maybe we'll tell a couple stories ourselves about some performance stuff that happened
Falcor.
for us.
Sorry.
Falcor. What the
Let's start with the mediocre part. Actually, can we start with the mediocre part?
Yeah,
Because
sure,
that was the part I most wanted to talk about.
I wanted to because I remember you specifically always saying, I'm not a performance guy. I'm not a performance guy. That's why I called it mediocre. But if you didn't like that,
No, I want to talk about that because that is exactly what I want to start with. I just want to start with this depressing fact or observation, which is that if you rewind time like 20 years, right? You just turn the clock back to when
high school?
I'm much younger, right?
Middle
I don't think
school.
Teach was born yet. Teach wasn't born, right?
I was 11, all right? I was 11, okay?
There you go.
Baby.
I know, right? He was ziplining and dad camping with his own dad.
So true, so true. Really brings me back.
It's not that hard. So it's been so weird to see the standards just drop through the floor and everyone act like nothing happened. So I just wanted to start there with that observation because I think people think I'm like this hard, like I was back there like hand coding assembly on the Commodore 64 and like what's up with you losers, right? It's like no, I'm just like everybody else. It's just I don't know that. So do you know what I'm saying? Is this landing
So you're
at all?
like everybody else, but you have you care slightly. Because even now, 60 FPS, that's not considered a banger anymore. You got to be 144 at this point.
Exactly. I mean, I'm the guy who's like, yeah, 60 was probably fine, right? You know, like I'm literally, my standards are not like, oh my God, if it's not 500 megahertz, then you're not, right? And I appreciate those performance goals, certainly. Like if I was doing an action game or something, I would want that. And I like being able to move a window around at 140 hertz. It feels great. It does, right? But I'm not out there like going like, oh my God, I can't believe people didn't ship a 500 megahertz update for this, Twitter or whatever. But just it dropping down to like update times in several seconds is just fine. Where did it come from? You know what I'm saying?
Can I propose at least one small thing?
Please.
Yes.
I do think that there was, if you remember the 90s, which I'm sure you do, there was an entire world where we went from not being on the internets to being on the internets, and everything took many, many seconds to do anything. Like everything was so big, and so as everything got faster, I think there was like, at least among my generation, the millennials, where's my millennials at? There was like a general acceptance that, hey, look at this. It went from taking 10 seconds to taking like a second. Things are so fast now. Like, look how amazing this is. And so like a 1 second loading time was like a miracle passed down to us. I remember the days of going, because I used to watch my mom, and I used to be really into the stock market when I was in 6th grade and do all the stocks with my mom. I
Probably
really
had
loved
a
it.
lot of friends too, didn't you? A
Yeah.
lot of friends.
I did. I went to a private school. There was 12 of us in our grade. I was into things. Okay, I was into things. And I still remember, like, during that day, just watching her on Charles Schwab, and it would take like 45 seconds a screen. So when things were taking a second, I think I never kind of lost that magic. And so perhaps, like, there's like a part of me that still lives in the fact that I used to try to download this 30 megabyte game called Slayer.net, where it was like an RPG. You'd go and like level up, and 30 megabytes was every 5 minutes 1 megabyte. So that's 5 times 30. There's, you know, it's a lot. That's a lot of time, 2.5 hours just to download 30 megabytes. So I live in this permanent world of, I can't believe this works. And so maybe I'm part of the problem, is that I just love it. You know, I just cannot believe we have all these nice things. All right, TJ.
Quick side question. Is the rumor true that you used a briefcase instead of a backpack in 6th grade? Or?
No, my mom would never let me use a briefcase because that'd be bad for your spine. So I was never
so
allowed
instead
to
you
walk
one
around.
shoulder strapped and
No,
broke
I never
yourself.
one shoulder strapped either. That'd be bad for your spine. Nor did I overload the books with it. I always did a 2 shoulder strap. I never needed to be cool. Always was instead. And I just simply had a couple books in there. Okay, I was never that guy that ran with all the books. You, TJ, strike me as a guy with all the books in the backpack kind of kid.
No, I didn't bring my books to school. I listened in class and then got A's.
Oh,
all right,
snap.
sorry. All right.
Nice try, Brian. You've completely mischaracterized me.
Wow. Okay. So you didn't need the books are you don't need those books. Those
Books are
complete-
irrelevant. The only time I ever needed a book, Spanish class.
Okay. Yeah.
Me,
I
you
always
have to
see in my
memorize
book
stuff.
because you had to read out loud. We always read from the
All right.
book. And
But-
So
Yeah,
when
I mean,
Prime
if you have-
said he was going to get a tortilla before, were you like, what? Sorry, what?
Is pronounced tortilla.
Okay.
oh my god.
sir, tortilla. Even I can read.
Well, I think Prime's suggestion is probably a good one. Like, I mean, I could totally see that if people are all still thinking that that their computer is running over like a 9600 baud modem connecting to AOL, then maybe some of these speeds would be explicable, right? Like they would make a lot more sense. But, you know, most people are on connections so fast right now, especially like when you're talking about the high end. So like if you're talking about like even my setup here where we don't have like fiber to the home or anything like that. We're like out in Comcast land. But it's still like only a few milliseconds ping time, and the bandwidth is like, you know, something like 2 gigabit. Like it's very fast. Basically everything should be instant. It's all just issues with either, you know, data center or what's running or the servers or how you wrote it or the client side or whatever. There's really not, like, you're not gated by the things that you would have been gated by in the 90s by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
But if people are still thinking like somehow that's true, that would explain why they think this is fine, I guess, because they're like, wow, you guys are doing really good running this on a 9600 baud modem. I'm like, yeah, okay, that is pretty impressive for a 9600 baud modem.
What I mean
no
by
disagree.
this is that there's like a part of me that when something takes a moment to load, I go, internet, right? Because it's just like I spent a
Right.
decade going internet. And so it's like still
Right.
built in me just to assume that anything that takes a second is internet.
And it's not. It
It's
never
not.
is.
I worked at Netflix also,
Completely
and I know
false.
for a fact it's not internet. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, in my head, I'm like, internet, even though it's not.
Yep. Okay.
I
Yeah.
remember the moment I got like a solid state drive in the startup time of like my computer was just significantly faster. And it was that like from that moment, I was like, okay, things can be way faster than they are now.
Yep.
And then that kind of like from that moment on, everything's just needed to be like really snappy. But to Prime's point, I always thought, yeah, just latency to some endpoint that they're calling. But if it's like an app on my phone physically that takes like more than a second to open, I'm like, what the? And I kind of figure it's not an API endpoint. It's probably just maybe the hardware in my phone. But like as you upgrade your phone, right, the phones get snappier and snappier. I'm kind of the guy that upgrades his phone every like 5 years. I don't really care too much. But then like once you upgrade, you're like, man, I've been missing out. So like my threshold of like tolerance is like slowly, I don't know.
I think the public's might be as well. Like I see a lot more people complaining about this sort of stuff now, so I kind of feel like maybe the tide is turning. Because like I felt like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, I don't know how long, I've been saying this kind of stuff for a long time. I felt like it was just like, this guy, what is he just, why, he's way too high standards, whatever. I don't feel that much anymore. It seems like people are kind of coming around to the fact that, no, really it is, like, it just sucks, and, like, things should be a lot faster. So I do feel like there's some kind of a attitude change, but I'm not sure why that's happening either. Just like I'm not really sure why no one cared before. I'm not sure why they seem to start caring now, but I'm glad they are, right? I'm glad they're putting that pressure on, at least a little bit.
TJ, you gotta talk to us. You look like you keep agreeing and shaking your head, but I don't hear any words.
Well, the thing I really wanted to do is I was hoping everyone could go quick around in a circle and everyone can do their best dial-up sound impression. There's probably a lot of viewers here who have never heard one. And then I'd love to have the YouTube commenters type out what they think their best dial-up impression is. And leave that in the comments. Yeah.
I got a story real quick. The
dial-up
sound.
Good, thank you, because I don't want to make a dial-up sound.
No, we're coming back to that. We're circling back
I'll
to
make
that.
one, but when I was like younger and I was like, doing that Dragon Ball Z chat and AOL, this would be like 10 p.m. at night. It's school night. I don't even know how old I was, and I would literally take my huge comforter from my bed, smother my computer, just so you could not hear the sound, and then just pray. By the time this 20-second sound is done, that I don't hear my parents walking, but it was
Very good. Yes.
That's perfect.
We don't need to do any more.
We do.
Freaking crushed
That
it,
is
dude.
so funny. Hold on. So you would hide it from your parents?
Well, I smother the sound so they can't hear me because it radiates.
Well, is it because you weren't supposed to be on the computer at that point?
It's 10 p.m. at night, man. I had to go to bed. I had school at 7 in the morning.
My parents were very nice and never cared about this kind of misbehavior. So during almost the entire last 2 years of high school, I want to say, my schedule was as follows. For some reason, I would go to school because you had to. I'd come home and I'd go immediately to bed because I was exhausted. I would sleep for about 2 or 3 hours. I would wake up, right? And I would program until 3 in the morning. And then I went back to bed for just 2 or 3 hours. So I had to get up at 6 something. And I would go to school and I'd just be completely tired and super annoyed that I had to do that. And then the cycle would just repeat. This is that's the entire last 2 years of high school for me. We're like that.
Now hit us with the dial-up.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, do your dial-up sound now.
It would be much like trash. It's
I feel like yours was too beautiful. Yours was
that
more
was
like
some movie sound effect.
Yeah.
I feel like I just
movie.
I got teleported back in time.
That was really a UFO. Sorry.
I'm waiting for RuneScape to download on my computer right now to finally finish updating in the browser and get cached correctly.
Mom, I'm not on the internet.
Yeah.
Mom,
well, the other thing is, I don't actually know. I didn't know as a kid, right? As a kid, there's no internet. It's not a thing. I mean, it exists as ARPANET and all this sort of stuff and whatever. So it's there, but you don't have any knowledge of it. You can't get on it. So BBSs or things like that is all you could information around. There's not much information. So I don't know anything. All the programming stuff you kind of had to learn yourself, or try to find books at the Borders bookstore or something like this, right? And remember them? So one of the things too is modem sounds always used to get progressively more ridiculous, right? Because there's 2400 baud modems, there's 9600 baud modems, there's 14.4 modems or whatever they were. I don't remember. And the sound used to be just the first sound. Used to be and that's it or something. Mm-hmm. But as they kept adding new negotiation tiers, the sounds got longer and longer and more complicated. So eventually you're using this modem and it goes through all these phases, and that's where the right? And it's multi-step. It used to be shorter because it was just the one tone. But then they had to do the handshake and figure out, can you do 9600 baud? Can you do 14.4? And it keeps escalating, right?
Is that sound actually real? I feel like it was like literally like the same
Trash,
pitch.
what the hell do you even mean was that
Well,
actually
he's-
I
real?
don't know. I don't know.
Trash, you're saying like, is it basically like the sound at the end of the washing machine when it makes a sound, right? Where it says that it's done, or is it like
I'm
really
just like,
connecting?
well, I'm just like trying to understand like how they came up with this sound. Like
It's
I don't
sounds
know.
humans can't make to prove that it's not a human dialing into something, I assume.
Yeah, they
It's like
they
a
didn't want it to
negotiation.
be like someone answers the phone and then it starts like thinking it's an actual modem, I assume. So it's just checking what you are. It's like, hey, can you speak this? Can you speak this? Can you speak this? And so they had different tones, like a dial tone and things like that to signal what you are. Dial
Not
tone is
gonna
this.
lie, today I learned. Not gonna lie.
These
Today I
are the
learned.
numbers, right? Like here's what the touch tone phone tones are, right? These are the click sounds for a rotary dial phone. There's like machines listening everywhere, right? And they need to know who
the
is
machines
who,
are
right?
listening.
I
Casey.
had no freaking idea. I thought they were just like, this would be kind of cool, man.
Yeah. They're just like,
And I'm just
this
like,
is gonna be an
what?
awesome sound that we can play out of the speakers.
They're like, Bob, what do you got?
I love it.
modem from Cisco coming
dude.
to you with the sickest sounds of dial-up.
Dude, they're just like in the AOL boardroom,
Yeah,
Bob.
yeah,
What do you got? What do you got, Bob? First,
Yes. Yeah, and then they're all sitting there going like, nah, CompuServe has this one that's like, and that one was sick, dude. That one was sick. We need something like that.
Yeah.
What do you got? Go back and give me something fresh.
They've got the Rick Rubin of like
Oh.
vibes of,
Yeah.
of them. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it needs a little more white noise sounds for me,
Yeah.
man.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's too funny.
Did you listen on your car speakers though? Because it sounds different. You know what I'm saying? You gotta try different computers.
The acoustics in this room are not conducive to my dial tones.
Yes. I can't work like this. You don't understand art. Yeah, it's very possible.
I get this mentality if you were a kid. If you were just an actual child.
He was a
but
kid when it happened.
Same
I was.
here. We're the same age, but you're now
I had
an
no
adult
idea,
and you know how things
literally.
work. You never just like pieced it together that they're talking.
All I cared about was going to my chat rooms and having a good time, man.
Yeah.
It's literally,
Dude,
I was
ASL,
probably getting
baby.
catfish. Dude, me
ASL.
and all my neighbors, we thought we had like girlfriends or something. And I didn't even know. Dude, one time they actually
ASL,
called.
baby.
They actually called my house, and they're like, we're like 10 or something, and we said we were like 16. And they called, and my mom was like, this person's on the phone, and me and like all my buddies just started freaking out. We're like, hang up the phone. It was so bad. Anyways,
What did it? Wait, no.
Yeah.
No.
That's not an
Continue.
anyways. That doesn't end in an anyways.
No.
Trash. There's not an anyways ending.
no,
to that.
there's an anyways. There's 100%
No. That's right.
There's
Back it up.
100% an anyways.
So
Back
how'd
it
you
up.
explain it in the Dragon Ball Z chat room afterwards when you didn't answer?
Yeah, Trash, you need to start a few steps back. Step one. Okay.
Yeah.
How? I just start the whole story over because I need to know what happened and then what your
Yeah.
mom said.
Okay.
wanna
Well,
know
I don't even
think
know
it
what
was a
chat
good idea
rooms
that
we're
they
in.
call you. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm 16. Let him call me.
I don't even know what we were thinking. Actually, giving my phone number out.
Yeah.
On the internet for someone to call.
It was your
Dude,
Now,
mom's
what's the worst
phone
could
number
happen on
first
this
off.
Dragon Balls thing?
It was crazy. It was, dude. I remember like after that moment, I can actually like vividly remember this. We hung up.
And you
And then
said,
they
I'm going to
pinged
use
us.
one
Well,
password for the rest
so
of them.
they hung up. We had call waiting, so we didn't get like knocked off when they called. But they had to get offline to call, so I could see like went offline screaming. And then we see that they signed back on. They're like, "What happened?" And we're just like, and we just like block them. We're just like, I can't talk to
Wait,
this
so it was
person.
a real person, you're saying?
Of course, dude.
Yeah.
TJ, this was the day and age of real people.
This is how
on
you
chat
met
rooms.
people.
Oh, I thought you were getting. When you were saying you were getting catfish, I thought you meant like early fake AI chatbot spammer.
Dude, I mean, I'm sure that happened to us, but like this specific instance was like,
No, this was
that's
way too. There was no AI chatbotters at this point. This was the old-fashioned catfish, and he was the catfish.
This is like down home
Yeah,
country catfish.
we already lied.
Yeah.
The
Trash
natural,
was the catfish.
organic
We learned a hard lesson that day.
fishing caught with a fishing pole catfish.
Dude, it was
All right.
wild times.
All right,
Wild
wow,
times.
that was that's great. Hey, by the way, should we? I like how TJ
Welcome to our
because I'm
podcast
just
about
processing-
performance, everyone. We're now
I'm
on
just
Dragon
processing.
Balls and getting catfished in 1998 or whatever.
Can we just get back to performance? Can we talk
No,
about
because
this?
Prime, you and I both haven't done our sounds
Okay.
yet.
All
We
right, well,
cannot.
also,
All right,
apparently we have to tell a
TJ, you're up.
story. Okay, do you want me to tell you the story that my mom told me in about 3rd grade about what the internet will become?
Yes.
Or do you want me to tell you about my habits in high school? I'll give you
Both.
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 No,
Yeah,
I
we got
don't know
time.
if we can do both.
Yes.
I want to hear
got
habits
time.
in high school first.
Okay, habits in high school were very, very simple. I would do something similar to Casey. I'd get home from school and I'd play video games. Sony Online Entertainment, which had infantry, so they had this like 100-person game of capture the flag with guns and stuff like that. Played a lot of that. Very good at the game. Got pretty high up on the old rankings. And then I'd stay up until about 1 in the morning, look at porn, and then go to bed at whatever time afterwards. And I'd do that every day. And then during high school, I'd sleep in 3 to 4 of my classes, and I took 2 gym classes. Lot of gym classes. 2 gym classes every day. Okay, really into
do
it. That was
that?
my high school.
Modem.
That
Modem
was
plus
like
donkey.
poltergeist for a
Yeah. I know.
second. Oh my gosh.
I feel like I did pretty good. Okay, because
was
it
good.
starts off fast. It's like,
We gotta
Very
zoom,
good,
Josh.
really.
We gotta zoom in on his face. He turned so red.
I
during the
did. I
donkey
really,
part.
dude. I
That
laid
was
it
intense.
out. What are you talking about? I didn't do like a weak sound.
That
Yeah.
was intense.
So your
That was
mom
wild.
basically presaged the fact that the whole world would get on one giant network.
Yeah, she told me
And-
that I was like 3rd grade. I remember this vividly. She had this
But-
dream
What,
decade before that.
1950?
But what about the world ending part? Because that part, should we be worried?
I don't know.
How did that
I
part
don't
go?
know.
What's the? Do we have any details about that?
No, that's
Casey,
all she
that
told
already
me.
happened in 2012. The Mayan
Okay.
calendar.
Yeah.
We're living
That's good,
in the dark
that's a good
timeline
point.
right now.
And
Okay,
why
everybody
it
else
already
fair.
happened.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Then TJ, we're still missing a modem sound from you.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do. Well, so I'll say something random about high school then too. Closest thing. So I shared a room with my brother. So
Milky?
yeah, Melky. Me and Melky when we were growing up after we immigrated, and then. So the thing for me was I couldn't keep him up at night because he needed to get his beauty rest. So I would literally go take my book. I loved reading books. I didn't need school books, Prime, to be clear.
Yeah,
There's,
he read Wheel of
distinct-
Time.
Yes, I was reading Wheel of Time. And I would turn on my closet light and go sit inside of the closet, hoping that that light wouldn't be enough to see the light underneath the door. So then my parents would be like, "What's TJ doing? He's reading again. It's 1 a.m. Why is this happening?" So there you go. That's mine.
Yes, the parents need to stop the child from reading.
Yeah.
Something that literally no parent has a problem with today.
They do when you stay up too late, and then I wasn't gonna spend time studying, right? So I had to be awake for class time. So that was the big thing. There was I had to make sure I was actually awake during school hours. I was a good student though in school, believe it or not, guys. So
Wow.
okay,
TJ,
and
a
then-
good student. Not shocking.
I was like,
Yeah.
oh.
Except for
Okay.
Spanish class, apparently.
well,
Me and more.
so my now wife, then girlfriend at the time, we're high school sweethearts. She was
Oh.
very mad at me that I was gonna get an A- in Spanish. She's like, "You could get an A if you wanted to, and you better do it." So I said, "Okay." Then I started studying for Spanish.
Wait. So
Yeah.
both of you are kind of like academic overachievers or something?
Yeah, she was a much better student than I was too. I mean,
Okay.
I got good grades, but she was a better student. You know what I mean?
Okay,
Like,
okay.
she would take notes and like care about
Okay.
things and stuff like that.
All right.
yes.
With like nice handwriting and everything.
Gel
Oh,
pens.
it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. It looks
That's
like
how
it's
my high
literally
school girlfriend
stamped.
was.
Yeah, I know how that. Okay, I see
Yeah.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah, and then she did biochemistry in college and like did very well at that and everything. Yes, so she's a very good student.
All right, so maybe
we're
she
ready.
should be on the podcast. I mean, I'm not trying to kick you off, TJ. but
Yeah,
I'm just
we could
saying,
have her
like,
on.
It
She
sounds
could
like
tell
an
you some-
upgrade. Yeah.
She could tell you some funny stories about me in high school, probably. Yeah, yeah.
I want to hear
So-
the noise.
Most okay.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Hit me with the noise.
I'm just kidding. I turned on my robot filter. All right, I'll do my real one. All right, I gotta go. Gotta get the vocal cords warmed up.
That
You
sounds
got
like
me.
dubstep.
Like a
Is that
frog
dubstep?
modem.
It sounds like Skrillex or something.
Yeah.
That's what that trash you didn't know. He literally said his inspiration for all of his music came from his dial-up. modem.
I'm not gonna lie. I like was believing you, but I didn't want to look like I was believing you. And I was like, man, that's crazy.
Damn, that's crazy.
I was actually looking
gonna
around
let
at
that
everyone
one
else's
stay.
faces. I was looking at everyone else's faces to see if they believed you. I was like,
Sorry.
I was just like, yeah, I don't believe that. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'm definitely not thinking that's
Dude,
real.
50K, if 56K dubstep is a pretty sweet. Like that's pretty
Oh,
sweet
yeah.
band name. Like I could listen to some 56K right now.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
All right,
That would be
performance. What were we talking about with performance?
Yeah, can you get back?
We haven't talked about anything related to performance, but that's perfect. I mean, that's exactly how it should go.
Casey got his thing out where he said, guys, he's not even that serious about performance. Why are all you lagging behind? That was the message
I know,
that he
but we
wanted
need to talk
portray.
more about this. Okay, I want to hear more
Yeah,
about.
but like the context, like
You're the
hardware
one that brought up
performance or
dial-up,
what?
Prime.
Yeah, let's drill down a little bit. So basically, here's the thing. The only real change I think that it would take is just a general attitude, just shift the attitude a little bit to like actually caring and going, this stuff should be basically instant for the end user.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't turn it around immediately. Like every library, every substrate, every default platform people are shipping are all basically horrible performance. So you're not going to just show up overnight, at least especially in the web world, but even in games there's a lot of rot now in some engines, right? But basically like you're not going to just show up and fix it tomorrow. But if everyone was like, we should stop just accepting software practices because some like guy wrote a book and like it sounded good to us at the time, and we should start actually going like, why has software gotten terrible over the past 20 years and way, 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 way slower, right? Why don't we actually figure out what is wrong with the way we're doing things that's producing this result? Because it doesn't have to be. Nobody has to write anything in assembly language to make these software packages fast. They just have to remove the 20 layers of crap that they're inserting between what the CPU has to do and what you wrote. That's it. That's the only thing that has to happen, is you've stacked so many things, interpreters on top of libraries, on top of emulation, times of packages, and times of this, and times of Docker containers, and blah, 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 blah. And it just chokes a modern computer with crap, with waste, basically, right? It's as if you're eating, like, you need to get a little bit of iron in your diet. And so you eat something with like 1% of your daily allowance of iron and 99% like the fattiest carbohydrate gunk that does nothing, right? And you're like, that's what you're feeding this poor CPU, and there's nothing it can do, right? So really just change that and going like, let's like actually consider this important. Let's try to start eliminating these layers, and the layers that we do need that we're using because we want to reuse this, let's make them efficient. Let's figure out how to actually make them efficient, because we can. That's all it would really take over the next 10 years to turn it all around. Do you know what I'm saying?
Okay, hold on. Is there at least some level of argument to be made that our world has gotten significantly more complex than 20 years ago?
No.
No?
There's literally zero argument at all. Because way, way, way back then, you actually had to think about things like what order these assembly language instructions would be going in, or how you were going to make all of this work in only 8 registers in order for it to not be horribly unperformant, right? And now, even the smallest modicum of awareness about what you're feeding to the CPU, and you will run blazingly fast. Like a modern M4 chip or a Zen 5 CPU or something will run almost any reasonable piece of code instantly. They are absolute beasts. It's unfathomable to me when I look at how performant they are. They're just incredible, right? But you just have to stop layering all this artificial crap in between them, right? Like, and it's not, the world hasn't gotten more complicated. We made it artificially complicated, right? We lost the ability to ship the idea of a stable operating system platform, for example. Like, what's a Docker container? Why does it exist? Why is that layer even there? It's there because we lost the ability to think and write reliable, stable APIs for our substrate. So now you have no choice but to bundle up all the crap you were using in exactly the crap state that it was and dump the whole thing onto the end user's machine, right? Now that I don't want to pick on that specifically because it's like, okay, whatever, like that's going on, right? But all of that stuff would not be necessary. Same thing with like interpreted languages or things like slow garbage collection, right? We don't need to have those things. There are better ways and more efficient ways. But what typically happens is these things, I mean, you take a look at something like JavaScript, right? The first thing that gets shipped, it just propagates forever. And no one is stopping and going, wait a minute, guys, hold on. We need to do a revision step here. We need to make something that's fast by default, that ships cleanly by default. Let's do that work so that going forwards, everyone isn't building on a faulty foundation. Python, don't get me started, right? Python is
Let's
10
get
times
you
worse.
started.
I want
Right?
to hear you get started about Python and how the for loop
It's even
defeated
worse
it.
than JavaScript because it really does. It hardly can even be JIT, right? It's even worse for something like that. Like JavaScript, at least certain cases for JavaScript can be made pretty fast by something like a good JIT engine. If you wrote the JavaScript code like so that it can map cleanly, like so that the JIT can see what it's doing, it can do a lot better. Python, a lot of people are just shipping Python, and Python doesn't really even have an answer for that, right? And so if you write actual loops in Python, they're just dog slow. There's nothing you can do about that, right? You have to actually do something. Like you could drop it to Python. You could try to use a Python accelerator of some kind, right? But by default, if you literally just ship some Python, it's a disaster, right? On and on and on. And again, I don't want to suggest that any of these specific things is the problem. Like, there's nothing uniquely wrong with Python or something. It's the whole general idea that it just doesn't matter, and just let everyone else deal with it, and let CPU vendors have to keep, make everyone upgrade their phones and their computers all the time, creating huge amounts of e-waste and just a really bad use of resources for humanity, right? Power consumption, everything else, because we just didn't care. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't think the world is any more complicated. I think we made software artificially complicated, and we're paying the price every day, forcing CPUs to run this horribly overburdened stuff to do a job that if the job had just been written, like if you just rewrote that job in just simple C, it would have been 500 lines of code and it would have ran blazingly fast. But instead, it's like literally millions of lines of code when you consider all of the pieces that actually were involved, right? And it's just incredibly, incredibly slow to get it to actually do anything, right? So, that's the world.
I want to try to pinpoint the problem because I don't think it's a lack of care. I do not buy that as the hypothesis for the reason why it's happening.
Okay.
I'm trying to that's why I'm trying to come up. That's why I'm asking these questions. And so I guess the next question I'd have is a lot of corporate environments. There's most certainly an expectation of moving at a certain speed. There's a recommended path of like, hey, if you want to do something, you need to operate in this kind of way. I think, like even at Netflix, if I were to create like an internal UI that I knew that had to be used by a lot of people, I'd probably just choose React because it's just like, hey, I know how to play the game. I know it's not. I don't need to write this in Rust and HTMX, even though that would have been my choice back then. It's just like I don't need to do that. There's like this whole layering that I have to do for a parent, like team playing. Is the idea of pushing hard from management to deliver things. Does that help create these kind of things where I will just choose something off the shelf, regardless of how many things that it shows off the shelf? Regardless of how many things that, like that multiplying effect of off the shelfies that has happened, where it's just like I'm relying on someone else's house of cards because I need the perception and both the perception and the reality of shipping faster.
Yes and no. So I guess what I'd say is it depends who you are talking about, right? So for people who just are trying to write a UI, like I want to make a UI for this thing that I'm doing internal to Netflix or even external to an end user. No, it's not their fault, and it's not even their problem, really, in my opinion. You should have been able to use an off-the-shelf thing and make your UI, and it should have run blazingly fast and used basically no system resources, right? The problem is the layer below. To a certain extent, there is a little bit of blame that shifts upwards because the pressure's not on. Like, nobody's pressuring people to say, look, we need these things to be better. Like, why aren't there more initiatives? Why isn't there more money being put into making these things very performant and very low system resource usage? But really, like, most of the caring that I'm talking about is at this, like, standardization. Like, let's say W3C. I can tell you definitively from reading their notes that they don't care. They simply do not care, right? They could have taken performance seriously. They don't, right? I've seen time and time again when I've gone looked at things. I'm like, why the heck was this way? And I look at their minutes. Nowhere to be found is like actual expert performance analysis. And this is W3C. They could call someone up, right? They could call up a performance expert and say, we'll pay you some consulting fees to come advise us on how to design this problem. Never, right? They just assume that they know best or that it's not a concern or whatever, and they march along, right? And so we end up with a lot of things where I think, yeah, like that lower level is just a complete rot at this point. And so it's not someone's fault now. Someone who's a workaday engineer at a company is just trying to get things done. They can't go rewrite React, right? I mean, they could try to lobby internally. Like, if you're going to be a hero, you could lobby internally to create a project to make a no UI, right? But that could fail, right? Software projects fail sometimes, all that stuff. So can you do stuff to try and help? Yes, you can. But is it your fault that it's not? No. The fault is in the platform. And we kind of know this as well, because if the fault was just individual people, right, then it wouldn't be this uniformly terrible performance of software. It would be very varied. But what we actually see is uniformly terrible performance, basically. And that's because everyone's building on top of layers that are very slow. The actual way that they end up working in practice is very slow, right? So that's what I think is happening. And the care is everyone, like when I say shifting that mentality, everyone needs to start caring. But what that means is a little bit different. Management and people who are just trying to get their jobs done, doing, stuff above the substrate, they need to care because they need to be complaining, right? Management needs to be worried that it's slow and complaining that it's slow. The engineers need to be complaining that it's slow so that the dry powder exists. But then the people who actually need to operationalize that caring and need to be funded to operationalize that caring are the people doing the substrate work. Because these things have to get faster by default. That's the only way that things will get fixed, because it can't be every time you want to ship a non-laggy UI, you got to become some huge expert in React and rewrite parts of it or special case. Like, it can't be that. It's got to be that I just use the normal UI library and it's fast. That's got to be the way it goes, or it's not going to get better, right?
The thing that's been surprising to me, like in the past about these conversations at companies, is like every like study or like internal thing that I've seen anywhere, when the page loads faster, you get more sales.
Yes.
Like
we know this.
It does seem like I've never found one where it's like, it doesn't correlate or negatively correlates. The only time I've ever seen that, sshterminal.shop, we had to add a loading screen at the beginning to make people believe that it was a real store in SSH. Like, it is literally a time.sleep at the beginning to show the logo, because people thought we were making a joke store. Because they're like, well, you can't possibly load your state this fast.
Right.
This is
a problem
Yes.
people
It's a
find.
4-second wait.
I have a story about that. Well, it's
Yeah.
not really a story. A guy I knew shipped a game on PlayStation, and he optimized the online part so that if you went to go get levels from the online like place where users could post their user-made levels, it was just instant. Because he cached things and he had it working properly, and he didn't like present any latency that the servers would have to the user. It was just instant. And everyone thought that it wasn't actually connecting.
Yeah.
Right? Because they've been so used to the slowness that now they don't believe that software can actually run at the speed that we all know it can. That's how pervasive the suck is, right? Is that people now don't even believe that a web page could be instant or that a server thing could be, but all of it could be, right?
So that's the thing that's a little bit surprising, is like I've had this conversation internally before, and I'm like, it does seem like it's worth making this faster, guys.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, we don't. I'm like, every time I've ever seen this, everyone says it increases user retention, everything's better, time to first paint like matters, like a bunch of, and then I don't know. So that for me has always been a like kind of surprising disconnect. I don't know, Trash, like you experienced.
Point where everyone's like, yeah, we can actually be faster. And like a good example would probably be like Node and Bun, right?
Yeah.
These two new runtimes, like Bun has pushed Node to like, oh, okay, maybe we should invest, right? But they're like open source and like they do this for free effectively. So there are efforts of like pushing the boundaries at the browser level. I don't know. Like I don't really pay attention to like the Chrome team and the Safari team. I don't know what they're doing as far as like that granular. But I have seen in the community that people do want it to be better. But you know, these things take time, I guess, and I don't know. I don't have much to say on that one.
So okay, I got a couple things. So we did this. This is pivotal test, and I know if there was some coding guy in here, he'd know exactly what I'm about to say with Cell 6. Cell 6 was infamous at Netflix. This was early days. This is when we were putting trailers for the first time as like a video that would show when you'd land in the television app for the first thing, like the big billboard. Just
Yeah,
that
thanks,
one.
Prime.
Well, this wasn't me for this one. So this was the initial, very initial one. And Cell 6 was, okay, we think that the trailer is so important that we're actually going to prevent the user from even going inside the app until the trailer is done completely downloading, which I think it added some amount of seconds of time. And there was no visible difference in any metric between doing it and not doing it. And so one of the conclusions that was early brought on by management was that performance does not matter. Like if you take some amount of seconds versus some amount of seconds, the internal one, like the ones that some of us kind of came up with, was it doesn't really matter if you load in 11 seconds or 15 seconds. It's already so far out that any of the learnings is already gone. And also Netflix is a high, is what I would like to think of as a already baked into the cake loading time experience on a TV. Like a lot of people open up these programs and then just walk away. They'll take a second. They'll just let them load because they already know it's going to be a long, long time. It didn't really matter if it took a while. And then I'll tell one more fun story about Netflix. So there was that. Then the second big one was we did a test where we had to reduce effectively are using too much memory and we are fetching all this data for everything around the boxes because we were doing like predictive play delay. And so it's like if you were going to play some other show, we wanted to be like ready to play. So it's like starts up as fast as possible. It took me 2 years to convince everybody to turn it off. It was a lot of meetings, like meeting after meeting. And finally, I actually just did it. I just said, okay, forget it. Freedom and responsibility, F&R, baby. And I went and just turned on a test, allocated 10 million people and called it a day. And I just turned it off. I just said, no, we're not going to do play predict. And what ended up happening, we actually showed a slight green into revenue. And the reason being is that we just used a bunch less resources. Things slightly quit crashing as much. People had a faster experience. And boom, turns out more people actually enjoyed using the product when it wasn't lagging inside. So I came up with a couple good conclusions, I think. There is a huge difference between an out-of-app spinner and an in-app spinner. If you're using the app, I think the expectation should be no loading. But if you're waiting for the app, I think people have a much greater tolerance for something loading. So being able to be like, hey, there's a 5-second startup time or a 7-second startup time, I don't think you're actually going to make a huge argument there. If the difference is, 500 milliseconds versus 10 seconds, I think you could make a great argument there. But if it's inside the app and then you have to wait a few seconds, I think people highly care. And I got one more good one for you, TJ.
Well, can I say one other thing too?
Okay.
There's got to be some difference too of when you have made like a conscious choice to like type netflix.com into your browser versus like just encountering something random or like you're doing something within the app, right?
Correct.
Like that's even not just like the loading aspect, but like I already took the conscious decision to go to netflix.com. I've got 20 minutes. I'm going to watch a show.
Yes.
It's going to turn into 45.
Exactly. You're
I've
already like, I'm
given
going to
up
spend
on
an
it.
hour doing nothing. So it's like that time. There's definitely a mentality there. But okay, this is probably our most interesting test we did, which was when you press over, there was like a 270 millisecond animation or whatever it is. And someone's like, we should like remove all this slowness so when you can just like go faster. And it turns out when we allowed people to go faster, there was like a dip in watch metrics and people quit using Netflix as much. And the big draw away, this was like 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, was that what ended up happening if you actually measured where people were at, they would get deeper into the Lolomo where the less recommended objects were. And they would go so fast, they'd skip over things they were more likely to watch and enjoy watching because they could move so fast. And so there actually is like a performance trade-off that does exist where you give someone too much speed and they go right by everything they could like because they're just like bam, 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 bam.
In shopping analysis, they call this the decompression zone. And this is why oftentimes like supermarkets or things like that will have some stuff right at the front that they don't really care if you buy or not. And so you got to get a little bit deeper, like in retail, like or in clothing stores. Oftentimes, there'll just be some stuff on like a front thing that you have to kind of go around like a rock in the water, and that's like just something that they expect you to look at later. Like you're not going to see it on the way in, right?
Yeah.
I do think so. Here's one thing I will say about performance. You pretty much universally, and as much as everyone seems to want to deny it, pretty much universally, performance dramatically improves the enjoyment that people have when they use something on a computer. And to your point, Prime, that may not be what you're trying to do. If Netflix wants you to click on a movie and start playing it, and they don't really want you to enjoy moving around the movie, like if you're really having fun, there's such a thing as making your app too awesome if the whole point of it is that you actually want them to link out to some other experience, right? So sure, I could even see there being sometimes when someone could say legitimately, they go like, look, our app was too baller, we had to dial it back. And if you said that to me, I'd be like, okay, cool, right? If you're arriving at that place not because you're making an excuse, but because you actually made something too awesome and went, oh crap, this is too awesome, now everyone's doing this thing instead of the thing we actually wanted them to do, totally valid point, right? It's the other part that sucks, where you're like, look, I would like this map to scroll at 60 frames a second and zoom in at 60 frames a second so I can see the frickin' place where my car is going. But instead it's like click, 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 click. And I'm like, guys, you are aware that this phone runs like Fortnite at 60 frames a second, right? Fortnite!
Mm-hmm.
And you're drawing 3 lines and a dot at freaking 10. What's going on, right?
Dude.
And that's a constant thing, right? Where you're just like, there's no excuse for this. It's the same problem. Fortnite is rendering a map just like you are, but somehow, like you could not figure it out, right? And so it's weird when you see those kinds of things, because I'm like, I don't think anyone would use, a Maps app less if it was super buttery smooth. And the other way that I know that is, if people were sitting around going, I just don't care how fast the maps update, I just don't care, they'd never buy a new phone. Like, they wouldn't be buying a new phone with a faster processor. Apple would just put the same processor in the phone as they put in last year and just upgrade the camera or something. Because it's like, if all you wanted was a better photos, they wouldn't spend money on making a new chip.
They should do
They'd
that
ship
anyways.
the old chips, right?
Yeah.
But they know that when everyone gets a phone and it can scroll fast again, because now they are shipping a chip that can catch up with all the suck that developers added over the past 3 years, right? That consumers are going to be happy with their experience again, right? And so, again, you just see this, you're going like, guys, like, you can see that it's, like the market is telling you that performance matters. It's unambiguous, because otherwise we'd just be shipping the same chips we shipped 10 years ago if it didn't matter, right? But it does matter. And so it's really, what you're basically doing is forcing people to spend all this extra money, and again, creating a tremendous amount of e-waste. That's the worst part of it, is these things are just going into giant landfills. You can't really repurpose an old, some A-series chip. You can't repurpose that. It can't be like melted down and remade into a new A-series chip. It doesn't work that way, right? And so you're literally just creating a giant dump of garbage because we didn't want to like figure out how to ship a faster substrate, right? And that's no good. That's bad, right? It's bad all around.
Yeah, don't worry, Casey. As soon as we start putting AI on the phones, we're gonna keep on.
We got
on
so many
spending a
chips,
lot of resources.
Casey. So
Oh
many
my
chips
God,
need to
dude.
be
Yeah, because
invented
TP
right
now there's going to be a huge part of the chip that's dedicated for TPU stuff, right? And that's going to have to, this artificial right is
And-
not doing anything. Yeah.
You know they're gonna be asking AI questions that can be solved with the calculator app. You know
Yep.
what I mean? It's you type in
Yep.
what's 5 plus 5, burn down the forest,
Yeah.
10
No.
or 11. We're not sure.
Your calculator is going to round trip to a server because they won't have, like, we don't have the TPUs to give you a result in a reasonable amount of time for 5 plus 7, right? So we had a round trip to the cloud. So that's going out there, adding a ton of latency, right? You spike the power grid, half of America's in a blackout so that you could add 5 plus 3, which is something that we could do instantly in 1973. Right?
Yes.
And that's the world that people are actually barreling towards for some strange, unknown reason. And like, and people like me are just like so depressed all the time because we're like, God, this world, like everything could be instant. Like
You're gonna get
everything.
the AI summary, Casey, of your text messages when you could have
Yeah.
just read the text message
Yes.
and not spend any TPU
Yeah.
power on it.
Yeah, I will say there's like this mentality that I've seen where like within engineers where they kind of just they want to build these experiences, and then their attitude is like, well, hardware will catch up to where I can build this, so it will be shitty for now.
Yeah.
But eventually it will be good.
Someday.
And then everyone, exactly. So that's like something I've seen. Like I saw someone in chat, they're like, shitty software is driving hardware innovation or something. And I was like, yeah, 100%.
The problem is we can write bad software faster than
That is, that is the current problem. Actually, we should talk about that. Prime, sorry, don't interrupt you.
No, I got to jump in on this one because I have to like, because I've heard these kind of arguments and I always have to counter it. I remember, so there's this thing called SIGGRAPH. I'm sure Casey's at least familiar with SIGGRAPH. There was this presentation where this guy had 1,000 bouncy lawn chairs fall down, and they all had like wiggle physics and everything. And this was in 2006. And he was able to do that on 2006 hardware with 1,000 chairs at once, all falling into a big group and popping around. And he invented algorithms for it, a whole new ways to calculate stuff. It was like an incredible presentation. And so whenever I hear someone being like, oh, hardware is going to catch up, my only thought is that like the plot was so long ago that we've lost it, because you cannot tell me that there's a single web application that's as complicated as calculating bendy physics of lawn chairs and 1,000 of them colliding into each other, because they're very complex shapes. And so it's just
putting a video in the middle of the screen.
I know, like the fact that I can't get the play button to say play when I'm playing and pause when I'm paused on YouTube, and we're sitting there like looking at bouncy physics chair man who solved this on a computer that is like half the speed of my phone, and it's just like I can't even scroll Twitter beyond 40 tweets without it actually like turning into like the opposite of jiggle physics, whatever that is, like stutter physics.
I think you're thinking of something else, Prime.
But there's I'd like to talk about that one point as well, right?
I know, I just get really angry about that. Like this whole notion of like hardware will catch up. I'm like, no, it can't be. It just can't be that. Because Doom was made on the shittiest computer, and it has to be more complex than any website I've visited in the last 10 years. Like
you're totally right about that. You're totally right about that for sure. But I guess to trash what I think Trash was sort of talking about there was the idea. It's like, like I realized that someone, not me, right, could have made this experience faster and run well. But rather than me learning how to do that or learning to understand those things, I would prefer to just keep doing the slow version that I've been doing, and we'll just wait for the hardware to make that fast enough in 5 years or something, right? And the problem with that mentality is that the curve of acceleration for single-threaded code has not exactly leveled out. It's still going up, but it is really kind of like the knee of the curve has passed. And I think that's also one of the reasons why software today is feeling super crappy, is because people are still thinking that the hardware is going to be twice as fast every 18 months. But actually, the hardware is not twice as fast every 18 months at all. It's not even close if you're single-threaded. Because a lot of the things that we're doing now are like widening vector execution units, which no one's taking advantage of. Adding more cores, which no one's taking advantage of. Sticking TPUs on there, which will only be useful to run incredibly slow AI stuff that's even slower than the thing you're running now, right? And so the actual ability to accelerate single-threaded code has definitely been plateauing. And as process shrinks have become more and more challenging, hardware designers have had to get more and more creative about how they're going to get any performance increase at all out of new generation chips. And so it's possible that the single-threaded march continues to eke out. It's also possible that the party may be permanently over sometime soon. Not for performance increases, but for single-threaded performance increases like that. Single-threaded, non-SIMD performance increases. It could.
Which means JavaScript is capped out.
Which is a lot of, yes, JavaScript very much caps out there because, like, not that JavaScript can't generate SIMD code, it can, but most code in JavaScript is not set up to actually be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
And again, it's, sorry, go right ahead, TJ.
Yeah, I was going to say, the other thing is, like, not everyone gets new hardware when it comes out.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool, congrats. It runs fast on the 7090. Okay. So congrats on not selling your game to a bunch of people. Like,
Exactly.
they don't have the 7090. And the other feeling for that too is like, I know I'm not that old, okay, but like I still remember it was exciting to get like a new computer because you're like, holy cow, guys, this thing is 4 times as fast
Yeah.
as what mom and dad bought me last time. You know,
Yeah.
for the house. I mean, everyone used the computer, of course. It wasn't just for me to play RuneScape, right?
Right.
That wasn't why I
That's
begged
what
mom.
But
happened,
you did.
but
A
that's
lot
not
of
what it was
RuneScape,
for.
A lot of RuneScape.
Yes, a lot of RuneScape. But now it's kind of like, oh, I mean, like, I guess it's better. You know, you're like, I guess I have to get a new one because, like, I want to play this game, or there's like a few things that I'm interested in doing, or I'm gonna like get 50% more RAM. There's not like that magical wonder, I feel like, of coming home being like, the computer's 4 times faster. I loaded, what was that Jackrabbit game?
Jazz Jackrabbit.
Jazz Jackrabbit.
I have no
Well, it
idea what
loaded
that
in
is.
0 seconds instead of 2 this time, you know, like.
By Tim Sweeney. Epic. That's Epic. That's the Epic that makes Fortnite. Jazz
Really?
Jackrabbit. Yes.
Oh, dang, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I've
That's
never
sick.
seen
All
this
right.
in my
Oh,
life.
I got one more thing that we did. We tried to make this happen. So this Trash. I don't know if you were at Netflix during this time, but we tried to get people to use Sugarland, which is the old Roku. Like this was way back in the day. Where like everybody, if you're gonna use, like all employees must use Sugarland because it's the worst device we currently support.
Right.
And nobody would do it because the experience was that bad. Literally no one would use it. Instead, they just said, no, I'm not going to do it. And I realized there is definitely a part of the problem that you're discussing is a perception problem because a lot of software is written in these kind of concentrated tech cities or like in a concentrated, more wealthy environment where the people writing
Yes.
it tend to have more affluency than, say, the average people around them. And so
Yep.
every last person that you talk to is like, I got an M4 MacBook Pro. Oh, so do I. High five, right? Like they're all operating on like really quality software, and they don't have like there's no fluency in going, oh, actually, this is really, really painful. This is actually really, really hard because I would use older ones. I was like on a 2016 device in 2020, and people were just like, oh, how would you even use that? I'm like, I'm trying to make it like it helps me think through problems better because I'm looking at a problem where it's like this probably matches more what people are experiencing worldwide than in the Silicon Valley. The Silicon Valley has zero understanding of what the world is like because they live in such an extreme bubble of wealth and technology that they don't even know that the average person doesn't have the latest iPhone the second that it drops at all times.
And
I think-
and a lot of things are slow even on that iPhone, which is the shocking part, right? Like it's not like you get that
That is
iPhone and your web experience is flawless and instant. It's like nope.
Yeah.
It's still incredibly slow in a bunch of places. It's just some things like scrolling or something where it can be done mostly just with the device and is being handled by, some stuff that was pretty well optimized by browser authors, right? Not the people shipping the website. That actually will work, right? Now, I wanted to mention something that TJ said. I just want to touch on that. Like, he was talking about the 7090. So, I think it's important to draw a little bit of distinction here between GPU and CPU, though.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, like, if something's running slow graphics-wise, right, it may not be because people weren't trying... Like, GPUs are inherently parallelized. And
Yeah.
the platform that they have set up for programmers to use is very parallel, right? So typically, without anyone having to do anything special, without having to be a performance expert, just the thing you're going to type in will work, right?
That's the thing I was going to
the thing.
say too, Casey, with that is like to use the GPU, like the default and kind of only it seems like option unless you like somehow really mess it up is like you have to write it that it works for parallel.
You can't do it any other way, really. The
Yeah,
driver
so
just
then-
does that, right?
Right. So then because the default and like easy path moves to we go fast and can get faster in the future, right? Because we are figuring out how to do lots more cores and stuff. I get that
Yeah.
part, and we're like we
Yeah.
are magically finding out we can just smash a bit like a trillion of these. I don't know how many we have. It seems insane. Like that's the difference, right? It's like the web default version is like slow. You can't figure out how to make it go parallel. You can't figure out how to write it good. By default, the option is like we're gonna garbage collect like crazy and blah blah blah, right? And then so that's where I agree with you. I feel like that's kind of the interesting part that I don't hear people talking about as much, right? Is like if you want to make this faster, you have to figure out how the default experience can go
Exactly.
fast and
Exactly.
help people onto that path, not make it like an uphill battle to be like, oh, okay, well now I have to figure out how web workers work and how like all of these things work. I have to do object pooling myself and blah, blah,
Exactly.
right. Prime's favorite JavaScript technique, object pooling. So it's like
Yes, correct.
the reason he likes that is because you can actually make things go faster, right?
Yep.
It's like, okay, but then we need to figure out a way to like can we figure out a way to make that happen by default so everyone can just do it?
This is exactly the point, right? The point is, like, to bring it right back to the beginning of where we started this particular arc, right? Not everyone is going to be a performance expert. The goal is to make it so that your performance experts are there at the bottom substrate and that they have designed something excellent. And then everyone who builds on top of it, can they still slow it down? Yes, and they will to some extent. But the difference is they'll only, your apps will only run half as fast as they could instead of 100 times slower than they should, right? Like 1/100th of the speed is what we're having now. And if we went from 1/100th to 1/2 the speed, holy cow, would that blow everyone away in terms of the responsiveness of these things, right? So everything needs to be kind of reconsidered at that level and propagated upwards. And then things just get way, 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 way better because then everyone's just reaching for these new substrates that are designed to be minimal, fast, and everything's performant by default the way you use it. And the only suck that gets added then is any specific suck that you created. But you're not just sucking by default, which is what we have now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got to go pretty soon. But before we do, Casey, or like maybe Prime knows a website. Prime, do you know any websites where people can learn how to enhance their computer experience and learn lots of cool things?
Dude, if there was a website, like, I don't know, computerenhance.com,
That would be the perfect website name.
It's
I'll
like
tell
a
you what-
perfect website name.
I'll end with that. Yes, if you're interested in performance stuff, you can come check my stuff out at computerenhance.com. But let me give you the perfect illustration of what I mean by this. I don't want to do web dev. So what do? Computerenhance.com is just a Substack page. The performance of my performance-aware programming course sucks because you get it from the default thing that you use to show you things, and it's terrible, right? So I'm literally saying exactly what I said this entire time is my own experience. I didn't write anything. I just clicked like I'm making a thing, a publication on a site that people use to get their publications, right? Because I don't want to go write a whole thing. And the end result is the performance is terrible. You can literally go take a course by me where I show you all these awesome things about performance and we make super fast stuff and all this great things. And the way you're getting the content sent to you is incredibly slow, right?
For now, Casey, for now. Me
So
and Vegan
ironic.
were talking.
Okay. You're on it?
We're thinking about, we might write
right.
something for you.
Yeah.
All right.
I just have like closing thoughts in general.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
hit
do
us,
agree.
Trav.
I do agree. Like the foundation we're building on, and I'm speaking like specifically like in my domain, isn't the
Anime.
greatest, right?
Oh,
Like no.
No, dude, it's TypeScript compiler problems. That's where.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm just saying like there's just us as engineers at this point in time, we build on top of so many abstractions that we just don't even know what's even happening underneath. But I think like in my ideal world, like you should care about what you're shipping. Like do your due diligence to like if something sucks, like dude, just like try to make it better. So I kind of like hate people that kind of just like ship stuff. I don't hate them, but I'm like disappointed when like someone can like ship something and they're like it's good enough or like it's performing bad, but they give like no effort to like even peel back one layer of the onion to like understand to make it better. And so I think like I don't know. I just want like people to like care a little bit more about their craft, I guess. Like in my like at least I don't know. I obviously in a perfect world not everyone's gonna do like that. But I just think like the mentality at the moment is just like ship as fast as you can. I'm gonna make 10, 12 startups in like 5 days.
And increase the pressure. Like that attitude, like you're saying, if you had an attitude that was like, I care, like what I know this can be much faster, why isn't it? That also just increases the pressure on the system as a whole for people like to make the substrates better, which in time will give you the ability to continue to not care. Like you'll eventually not have to care as much because the things that you grab off the shelf at that point will already be much faster. So you won't have to know as much or peel back as many layers of the onion to figure out why things are going wrong, right? So like it pays dividends in the long run to just have that modicum of care where you're like, this should be faster and I'm at least going to complain about it, right? Like I'm not, even if I'm not going to have the opportunity to go rewrite this myself or fix it myself, just increasing the pressure and the general systemic awareness that something is very wrong here, that helps us push these things forwards and have the substrates get replaced with better things, right?
I do also want to say that there could be a whole bunch of people that fall into this category that don't even know they're in this category. Like, I think there's a lot of people that just use Twitter, the website, and think it's perfectly fine. But when I press the post button, it takes about 2 seconds for the thing to show up. When I click outside of it, it takes about 2-3 seconds for the thing to go away. Yeah. And no one actually has this categorized as a bad experience. This is just the experience. So when they make something that falls into a similar amount of performance, they're just like, oh, this is what normal is.
Well, the best one is mentions.
I am meeting the same bar of goodness that I see all around. And so there's also like a trained mentality that this is perfectly fine behavior. And so they may not even see this as something that's wrong. They don't even perceive it as bad. It just is what it is.
Mentions is the best one on Twitter, at least for, I don't know if you guys are similar. I click on mentions, I have to wait 30, 40 seconds before it will actually show new mentions. It's forever. It's like, it's infinitely long, right? It just shows an old stale page. And even if I refresh it, still stale. And then at some point, I don't know, some Ajax kicks in, like finally got a thing back, and it's like, oh, here's all the mentions, right? And it's like, it's insane how long some of these things take on Twitter. So it's weird to me, like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Some people say, like, the performance is fine. So it's like, what? Like,
yeah.
Are you crazy? So.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up. Hey, this was a great conversation. I think nothing better has come out of this than Trash's story about the internet and covering it with a blanket.
I'm gonna go home and cover my cable modem with a blanket right now.
And also, today we all learned that modem sounds were shorter. I did not know that. See, I did not know that.
That is news to me.
So that was a great, real educational stand-up today. By the way, I'm kind of blocked right now. Waiting on TJ, so next week I'll be able to get work done.
I'm going camping. Sorry, you'll have to circle back with me on Monday. Bye.
Bye. All right, bye everybody. All right, I'm gonna leave the site. Bye.
Bye.
All right, there we go. Hey, we were in the middle of doing a something else. If you guys remember, we are in the middle of going over on Andrei Karpathy. Dude, Karpathy. I keep adding an extra R in there. That's not in there. So let's go like this. Let's go back to this thing, and I'm just gonna highlight this bad boy, and we're gonna keep on going. All right, we're gonna keep on going. I've forgotten what it was, but you know what? We're gonna do this. Also had, by the way, while this happened, just as like a fun fact for you guys, while we were talking about performance and things not working correctly, YouTube chat slowly took up 7 gigs of memory, and then my whole computer froze and I couldn't use it for a little bit until YouTube chat has completely busted and quit working and everything closed down. Now we're back. Now things are slowly coming back. So it is like, there is like a hilarity to the fact that, that happened while watching it. Like, did you guys just see how long that took? Oh my gosh. You cannot tell me that's a speed problem. It just can't be a speed. I just refuse to believe this being a speed problem. You know what I mean? Like, I just refuse to believe that is like loading a web page should take that long. I just do. You know what I mean? That's what you did. Let's see. That's how you take up, dude, 7 gigabytes. Yeah, I know. I'm already, did you notice that I just loaded it back up? If you guys didn't notice that, when I started loading that up, I was at 7.8. I'm at 9.1. This page right here utterly destroys my computing. This thing will slowly start rising as time goes on, and we'll be at like 10 gigs. It just gets out of control. Out of control. All right, now that we're done with the stand-up, we have to return to this. So I've kind of lost a bit of context of where we were, but let's okay, well, hey, we're getting back into this, okay? We're getting back into this. I hope everybody's ready for this.
As much attention as it should is.
Let's go back like 10, 15
all this
seconds.
Kind of stuff. It's all designed for human. All of this has to change and become accessible to LLMs. So one thing I want to stress with a lot of these LLM apps that I'm not sure gets as much attention as it should is we're now kind of like cooperating with AIs. And usually they are doing the generation, and we as humans are doing the verification. It is in our interest to make this loop go as fast as possible. So
I know this is like, people claim this is the absolute future of development and everything. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't love this loop. Like, even if it does make me faster and I could produce more software, I also just don't get any joy out of it. You know what I mean? Like I really just, it's not, I'm not even saying whether it's good or bad. I'm not saying anything positive about, you know what I mean? Like this is not me trying to take down something. This is me just simply saying this does not make me happy. It actually kind of makes me sad. Yeah. Yeah, it's just true. Just does.
We're getting a lot of work.
The reason why, for those that don't understand, is that I can't, like, I don't love reviewing. Reviewing makes me feel like I slowly lose my grip on things because I don't understand how data flows, and a system slowly gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just can't I can't wrap my head around it. And so it's like I don't really quite know what's going on, and I pretty much am turning into like a 2012 QA. Is that I like say a bunch of things and then I test it, and when it doesn't work, I say a bunch of things and I test it and it doesn't work. So it really just feels like I'm just like living some weird QA lifestyle, building these things. It just feels like a strange place to be. You know, we're just in a weird place. I have to touch the fully same here, right? Like if I don't write it myself, I really don't understand it. And maybe I bet you there's people that can understand stuff and how data flows without having to write it. And I think that that's probably why they are so much more bullish on AI. I bet you there's a lot of people, and they're probably just way smarter than me. And that's fine. Like, I totally get you on that. I just can't do that, right? I've literally never been able to do that. I can't build a mental map from just reviewing code. It takes a bit more. And maybe if I have like a super intense expertise in an area, well, that was weird. Hold on. If I have like a super intense expertise in a specific area, then I can review code without having to look at it because I know it so well, then it perfectly makes sense. But when I don't have an expertise in an area, I don't really know what I'm looking for, if that makes sense.
There are two major ways that I think this can be done. Number one, you can speed up verification a lot. And I think GUIs, for example, are extremely important to this because a GUI utilizes your computer vision GPU in all of our head. Reading text is effortful and it's not fun, but looking at stuff is fun, and it's just a kind of like a highway to your brain. So I think GUIs are very useful for auditing systems and visual representations in general. And number two, I would say, is we have to keep the AI on the leash. I think a lot of people are getting way overexcited with AI agents, and it's not useful to me to get a diff of 1,000 lines of code to my repo. Like, I'm still the bottleneck, right? Even though that 1,000 lines come out instantly, I have to make sure that this.
I'm happy the AI wrote this, even though the 1,000 lines came out instantly. Beautiful line there. I do agree with him though. He's bringing up a good point, but again, I think this is where people you have to accept a lack of control to be able to move at a certain speed, right? You have to choose one,
bugs.
understanding or speed.
It's just like, and that it's doing the correct thing, right? And that there's no security issues and so on. So I think.
By the way, the whole there's no security issues or any of that. I've told this story many times about me. Like one line of code could take down Netflix. There is no like. Security isn't just simply as reviewing some code and make sure it's good. There was an entire DDoS, and it wasn't even a DDoS. You don't even need to do the first D, just a DOS. And it's like a branch of the repulsive grizzly attack where a single request could take on an entire instance. And this existed in most web frameworks for a long time. It's a regex expansion thing. Cloudflare accidentally pushed up something, just last year that took down a huge portion of Cloudflare that was another regex expansion problem. And so this idea that's like, yeah, you just need the review for security. It's like, no, it's actually extremely hard, and security takes a lot of like mental effort to actually figure these things out because it's not as simple as just review the code. A lot of times security, like the big security problems, it's not just something like, oh, you accidentally left a port open that people can log in unauthenticated. It's more like you've set up a series of 15 steps that when all of these things happen, your whole life will explode and people will be able to screw you. But it's like it's such like a tiny sliver of everything. And this is why, it's why automated is a dirty word in security. I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. I'm Never have claimed to be a good security guy. If that's true, totally understand that. Yeah, it's a cascade effect. It's a very timing attacks are a great example. How would you ever know that someone would be able to measure whether the computer is doing a predictive branch or not? Right? It's just like they're able to do such intense like forms of attacks that the things you're doing, you just don't even have the ability to know about those things. And so like how would you ever even know that you're programming something that could accidentally DOS yourself, right? Accidentally give yourself a repulsive grizzly attack because you're using way too much memory or doing something really silly. Like, how are you supposed to know those things if you're just doing these reviews? You're going to actually set up a situation and it's going to happen. You know, I don't think most things are going to be simple like, oops, we accidentally left user editing open. You know, I do that joke where I show cursor. I had cursor here. In fact, I'm pretty sure I could find it here. Hold on just one second. Pretty sure if I go like this, I'm just going to, is it in here? Yeah, it is. XDG open security. This is like my favorite image of all time. Wait, where'd you open to? Can I not use XDG open? Why come that don't work? Oh, why come that don't work? Here, I'll go like this. Let's open up a new tab, and I'll go new tab, and let's go like this. File : / home personal theprimeagen chessy security.png. I don't know why I can't open this really. Oh, whoopsies! I went the other way around. Theprimeagen. Dude, this I feel like I'm definitely living life in like 1999 here. Oh my gosh. Flip, take this out. Don't let anyone see me do this. Take it out, Flip. There you go. I still love this. I effectively was building a site where I need someone to log in. And I realized that like we're just sending down session data and just trusting it. Never even put any security on it. Like the
flow of these two go very, very fast, and we have to somehow keep the AI on the leash because it gets way too overreactive. It's kind of like this. This is how I feel when I do AI-assisted coding. If I'm just vibe coding, everything.
By the way, I don't know. I don't know if we needed to go faster. Like it truly, like, can someone please help me on this? Is really our biggest problem speed of writing code? Like, is this really our biggest problem? You know how much, like, whenever I worked in big organizations, the big problem was, like, I had to get 15 teams together to do a whole bunch of crap. Like, there was so many more problems that didn't ever involve coding itself. Like, searching was most certainly a huge problem. Like, AI is actually really fantastic. I love the fact that I can jump in and use Claude or use Cursor, really, because cursors are really good at this, and just be like, hey, Cursor, I don't know anything about this code base. Can you help me identify where a couple of these things exist so I can go look? Like, I think search mode is incredible. Semantically aware search mode, right? It's so good. Hold on. There's someone that keeps saying the same thing. Here, I don't know what you're saying. I'm just gonna go like this. Just do an unban request and say sorry. Or don't. I don't.
It's nice and great, but if I'm actually trying to get.
By the way, I don't know if you saw that. I clicked, and then it was like a 2.5 second click before the video actually played. Crazy.
Work done. It's not so great to have an overreactive agents doing all this kind of stuff. So this slide is not very good. I'm sorry, but I guess I'm trying to develop, like many of you, some ways of utilizing these agents in my coding workflow and to do AI-assisted coding. And in my own work, I'm always scared to get way too big diffs. I always go in small incremental chunks. I want to make sure that everything is good. I want to spin this loop very, very fast. And I sort of work on small chunks of single concrete thing. And so I think many of you probably are developing similar ways of working with LLMs.
Oh, by the way, you know that phrase where people always tell you, like, those who aren't getting great at AI are going to get left behind. Hey, you want me to give you the last 3 years worth of knowledge of AI? Are you ready for this? You better sit down and get out a pen and piece of paper because, dude, you've probably been left behind if you haven't been doing it. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? Try to describe your problem accurately. Try to move in as small of a step as possible. Wow, man. Probably got left behind if you weren't using it. Probably, real talk, you probably got left behind. Well, I guess I caught you up now for the last 3 years. I know, but isn't that kind of like a crazy like aspect that people keep trying to do? Dude, isn't that it truly is crazy, right? That there's like this weird fear hype that has been going through people. They're like, dude, you're gonna be left behind. It's just like, what the hell am I being left behind on? We have the least sophisticated version of this that anything you're doing is gonna greatly change in the next 6 months to a year anyways. It's already changed a lot. I'm not hand copying and pasting context anymore. I'm taking files in Cursor. Dramatically simpler. Do you really think that not using it today is going to somehow leave you behind and you're completely unusable? I'm fine being left behind. That's it. We're getting Kirk Cameron out. We're doing the Left Behind series. All right, bring him in. Come on in.
I also saw a number of blog posts that try to develop these best practices for working with LLMs. And here's one.
Dude, this is literally what I'm saying. Notice the top one is just like, hey, do the shit. And the bottom's on like, okay, implement a token bucket rate limiter in Python with the following requirements. Requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3, requirement 4, consider, right? Dude, you could probably write it with less words in Python than it takes for you to describe it, buddy. Let's go.
That I read recently and I thought was quite good. And it kind of discussed some techniques, and some of them have to do with how you keep the AI on the leash. And so as an example, if you are prompting, if your prompt is vague, then the AI might not do exactly what you wanted, and in that case, verification will fail. You're going to ask for something else. If a verification fails, then you're going to start spinning. So it makes a lot more sense to spend a bit more time to be more concrete in your prompts, which increases the probability of successful verification, and you can move forward. And so I think a lot of us are going to end up finding kind of techniques like this. I think in my own work as well, I'm currently interested in what education looks like in together with kind of like now that we have AI and LLM.
I'm very excited about this topic. I actually am very curious exactly how he wants to break this down, because I think that this right here, AI and education, is either going to be our greatest failure as a species, or I don't know yet, right? Like, I don't know if it's actually better, but I can tell you that it has a huge chance to make the greatest failure we've ever done, ever, of all time.
What does education look like? And I think a large amount of thought for me goes into how we keep AI on the leash. I don't think it just works to go to ChatGPT and be like, hey, teach me physics.
Agreed.
I don't think this works because the AI is like, gets lost in the woods. And so
not only does it get lost in the woods, it starts making things up, but you don't even know because you're not educated enough to even understand that the things that you're reading about aren't even true to begin with. There's like a whole slew of things going on there. Totally right on this whole keeping it on a leash.
For me, this is actually two separate apps, for example. There's an app for a teacher that creates courses, and then there's an app that takes courses and serves them to students. And in both cases, we now have this intermediate artifact of a course that is auditable, and we can make sure it's good. We can make sure it's consistent. And the AI is kept on the leash with respect to a certain syllabus, a certain progression of projects, and so on. And so this is one way of keeping the AI on the leash, and I think has...
I don't see... I think we're just about... Yeah, unfortunately, I think we're just about to... Yeah, okay, we're going to go into a different topic, yeah. See, I really think he missed the mark on this one. This one, I think, is way more deep and way more scary and way more potentially more exciting. Again, I am so unknown on this one. All I know is that AI, like, one thing that AI is terrible about is just, like, giving you answers, and people will take the lazy route. I'm reading this music theory book right now, and literally one of the first opening words was, hey, you know, like, music theory is great. You know, I know a lot of people are kind of sad that it does take so many years to master, but hey, it's really great that you're taking the step now. This is fantastic. And, you know, you just read it, and you're just like, man, how often does somebody go into something in today's day and age and think, okay, it's time to spend some years mastering this, as opposed to, okay, I need the answer right now. Okay. Hey, I need to just get to the answer right now. Okay, what's the answer? I just need the answer. Well, music theory doesn't take years to master. I think, see, okay, so you're doing the exact like expert, beginner, idiot thing, which is, yes, you can learn things about music theory in an hour. But to truly master it and really understand it, there's levels of knowledge that don't exist until you've done something 1,000 times, right? You can understand that there's various things, there's tension creation and tension release, and you can say all these words. But to truly understand it, to feel it deep down, You have to hear it, and you have to, like, there's a whole, like, putting all the things together to go, okay, this is why. And I also don't believe that you can learn music theory in an hour. I just don't believe you even in the slightest. But even if you could, there's still the application of music theory and turning it into real knowledge, not just knowledge on a piece of paper, but actual, like, internalization of it, which is just like an extremely hard thing. Right? Like, yeah, sure, you could tell me the perfect fifth to every note I ask you. Oh, what's the perfect fifth to A3? Go! Right? That's just fifths. Look at that, dude. We were on the same page right there. But yes, so I hear you, but that doesn't actually make you understand it. You just know some numbers, right? You don't actually know it. It's not here, it's here. You got to get it here. This is the greatest distance in the universe. Right? Yeah, just like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is another great example. Any of these things are great examples. You can understand things, but it doesn't mean you have it here. Right? Head to heart, greatest distance in the universe.
There's a much higher likelihood of working, and the AI is not getting lost in the woods. One more kind of analogy I wanted to sort of allude to is I'm no stranger to.
Hold on, I did like this. Okay, hold on. May I disagree? You can always disagree, long as you don't say something in a stupid way. Okay, then it's just annoying. We may not have time to invest in that learning because life pace will adjust to AI time. Yeah, I agree. I think that we're constantly. I mean, this is one of those things that I think people should fight back. I mean, this again, we've talked about this, which is like the super hard part of stuff. If you're sitting in an organization and you have 9 people around you just vibe coding and mashing out features, and even though the code base is becoming a progressive, bigger mess, there's a lot of people in management or other places, maybe people that aren't directly in management but one step over, that are going to see, oh man, 9 people are absolutely crushing it, but this one guy's kind of far behind, hasn't been delivering features, hasn't been hitting the backlog. What's going on with that guy? Maybe he's not cutting it in the day and age of AI. And maybe what's actually going to happen is that your product's going to be an absolute disaster here in a year, and you won't even be able to move forward, but you fired the one guy who was trying to make it so that you could move forward, but he just did not appear on paper more productive. So I totally agree. Like, there's this weird AI pacing time problem that's going on where we're trying to settle on a new normal that I'm not even sure is a good normal, right? This may not be normal. This may not be good at all. It's just a thing that we have these weird pressures on that we've allowed people to do. And so I'm kind of like, generally, I try to push back on that. This is part of my ability. Like, I feel like I have a huge audience that I can speak out to, so I'm trying to give some good reasoning here for why we should maybe consider these things a little bit better before we just dive right in. And maybe one day we don't ever have to worry and you can just vibe code your whole life and everything's fantastic and coding becomes a completely useless skill. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but okay, yeah, I could be wrong. Hey, I could be wrong, people.
Autonomy, and I've kind of worked on this, I think, for 5 years at Tesla. And this is also a partial autonomy product and shares a lot of the features. Like, for example, right there in the instrument panel is the GUI of the autopilot.
By the way, I think this is one of the most atrocious design decisions of all time. I actually think it should be illegal to have a touchscreen in a car. If you don't give me a manual volume raiser until I do not have to drive a single cent of the way, then you shall not take my eyes off the road. It is somehow not illegal, which blows my mind. Like, yes, if I didn't have to drive, give me all the screens you want to give me all over the place. I don't care. But the fact that I can't press buttons is insane. Absolutely insane. Dude, crazy. Crazy.
So it's showing me what the neural network sees and so on. And we have the autonomy slider, where over the course of
It's a W
my
take. I know it's a
there,
W take.
we did more and more autonomous tasks for the user.
I have a volume button on the wheel. Yeah, that's good. Because that way your hands can literally stay on the wheel and you can go like this. Wow, that's normal. Instead of like, hold on, sound menu, oh shit, I just ran over somebody. Dude, like what kind of crazy, like who thought that was okay? Boomer take, glad to have this as a boomer take. This is a good boomer take. This should be something we should not allow to happen. I don't want a 35-mile-an-hour moving machine that weighs 1,000 pounds flying down the streets where my kids might be walking because somebody can't keep their eye on it because they're trying to like make a dial go up and down. Like, that's the last thing I want in my life. I said 1,000, which is way under. It's like I think there's somewhere between 1,200 to probably 2,500 depending on the vehicle. Yeah, I have no idea what the.
And maybe the story that I wanted to tell.
In fact, actually, I literally have no idea. Let's find out. How much does the average car weigh? We'll go to Google for this one. Sorry, Pewdie. Sorry, Pewds Pie. Oh wow, okay, that's crazy. I don't even know. I didn't even read whatever that pop-up was. Didn't even read it. Okay, smaller cars, 2,500 pounds. Okay, so that means like EU cars are like 1,200 pounds because they're like little baby cars. They're like little teeny tiny. I don't know what the pop-up was. I didn't read it. Okay, I didn't read it. So if this is to be believed, there we go. Sorry, websites who got this taken from you. Welcome to the new world. You get to make you just get AI to give me that little quick summary. All right, Cash Machina.
Very briefly,
Thank you.
is actually the first time I drove a self-driving vehicle was in 2013, and I had a friend who worked at Waymo, and
Oh man, I cannot. I'm about to hot take so hard here.
he offered to give me a drive around Palo Alto. I took this picture using Google Glass at the time, and many of you are so young that you might not even know what that is. Yeah, this
He used Google Glass. This actually greatly changes my perspective about him. Okay, we're putting things together. We'll talk in a moment.
was like all the rage at the time. And we got into this car, and we went for about a 30-minute drive around Palo Alto, highways, streets, and so on. And this drive was perfect. There was 0 interventions. And this was 2013, which is now 12 years ago. And it kind of struck me because at the time when I had this perfect drive, this perfect demo, I felt like, wow, self-driving is imminent because this just worked. This is incredible. But here we are 12 years later, and we are still working on autonomy. We are still working on driving agents. And even now, we haven't actually fully solved the problem. Like, you may see Waymos going around and they look driverless, but there's still a lot of teleoperation and a lot of human in the loop of a lot of this driving.
I did not know that.
So we still haven't even declared success, but I think it's definitely going to succeed at this point. But it just took a long time.
Okay, what's the
And
takeaway?
so I think this is software is really
sound is
tricky,
different.
I think in the same way that driving is tricky. And so when I see things like, 2025 is the year of agents, I get very concerned. And I kind of feel like, this is the decade of agents. And
Good takeaway. This is a good takeaway. In fact, I would, maybe this is the decade of self-driving cars. We haven't even we're still 12 years away from it not even working. We actually have no idea what the future is going to be like. I remember all the self-driving. I was just new to the Bay Area in 2013, and I remember seeing self-driving cars 12 years ago. I remember being like, wow, dude, it's right around the corner. I'll give it 6 months and we should see more. Dude, you know how many people I remember in 2014 tell me it was 6 months away from these things happening? There's definitely a thing here. Good self-driving would be prevalent today if there weren't for regulators. Well, there's a little bit more than regulators. There's also a lot of other things, right? Waymo has some, self-driving has some pretty tough times in some various snow-based environments. There can be some various outside effects that can make things hard. It's not just as simple as it would be everywhere right now if there weren't for them damn regulators, which, by the way, me and the government. You already know that I'm not a huge fan of the government, so I'm kind of already on your team. Okay? You don't even have to sell me. I'm like, they take my freedom, right? But nonetheless, right? It turns out regulations is okay sometimes. Sometimes it's okay because for a long time, people forgot that the car had a problem distinguishing a bundle of sticks and a baby. So, there's also that. That's a big problem. But nonetheless, to get to the point of all this is that, first off, him being a glass hole really shapes a lot of how I now see him. If you were wearing a Google Glass in 2013, what this really means is this guy is truly a tech maximalist that believes that believes that the future is now, right? You know how many people that were wearing Google Glass thought that the whole world was going to go AR at that moment? In the next 6 months, we're all AR boys. Everybody, dude, get your baby on AR. They're going to get left behind if they aren't knowing how to navigate the world in AR land, right? It's just okay. And then guess what happened? We all called them glass holes because we all thought they were super annoying. And now Meta 10 years later, 12 years later is re-releasing out the exact same thing except with the partnership of Ray-Bans, and people are like, okay, it's not that bad now. I mean, I could give, I'd give some Ray-Bans a try with a little bit of hearing on it. I'd give it a shot. On those ones. But it's kind of crazy, right? It's just that it took this long and people are still like, meh, glassholes, right? So he probably overestimates the integration of technology, because I'm going to tell you a little secret. I don't think my mom cares. And I have a sneaking suspicion your mom doesn't care either, right? They don't care. There's a lot of people that just don't care about the technology. They don't really want AR. They just want to live their life. They enjoy not being connected in. So there's that, you know?
This is going to be quite some time. We need humans in the loop. We need to do this carefully. This is software. Well, let's be serious here. One more kind of analogy that I always think through is
sounds like
the Iron Man
coming.
suit.
I know people get a little too
I think
excited.
I always love Iron Man. I think it's like so correct in a bunch of ways.
Okay, who here, when they were younger, watched the first Iron Man and got tech boners and really wanted to get better and better at tech? Who did it? It's okay. First Iron Man was based. Okay, first Iron Man was based. We can all say the first Iron Man was based. All right, like we can all make arguments that the rest of the Iron Men were just shallow comparisons compared to the first one. The first one was awesome. Yeah. Iron Man 1, Too Old was already in, but it probably still got you excited. Right? The first one, the Social Network movie was a gateway drug to PHP for a lot of people. That is a great tweet. That is a great tweet, my friend. And we're going to make that. The Social Network was a gateway drug to PHP. Boom.
With respect to technology and how it will play out. And what I love about the Iron Man suit is that it's both an augmentation, and Tony Stark can drive it, and it's also an agent. And in some of the movies, the Iron Man suit is quite autonomous and can fly around and find Tony. And
that's when I really think it fell apart, actually. That's when I think the whole show fell apart, is when it got too fantastical. Back when it was kind of like grungy and was kind of just, things mostly worked but not completely worked. Like, that's actually when I thought Iron Man was the best. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I mean? Yeah, you know what I mean?
So this is the autonomy slider, is we can build augmentations or we can build agents. And we kind of want to do a bit of both. But at this stage, I would say working with fallible LLMs and so on, I would say, it's less Iron Man robots and more Iron Man suits that you want to build. It's less like building flashy demos of autonomous agents and more building partial autonomy products. And these products have custom GUIs and UI UX, and we're trying to, and this is done so that the generation verification loop of the human is very, very fast. But we are not losing the sight of the fact that it is, in principle, possible to automate this work. And there should be an autonomy slider in your.
Okay, like if I take a step back from all this, I'm listening to him and I take a step back. Other than programming, is there anything he's really referring to? Because, I'm sitting here, listening to this, and I'm realizing, this has to be really only about programming. Because I just sat down with a lawyer just recently, and I asked him a bunch of questions about this. And I'm like, is this really what's happening? And he's just like, yeah, paralegals really have a big thing where they no longer build me boilerplate code, or boilerplate law. I just go and ask, ChatGPT to do it for me, and then I have to pretty much rewrite it as I go. But hey, at least it got me into point. And so then I just go through it. So he's like, yeah, I see paralegals having somewhat of a problem coming up here. But he's like, but I don't see any problems with junior lawyers, despite what Steve Yegi said. Steve Yegi, if you didn't read the blog, pretty much just said that all junior everythings are about to leave. And so he was wrong, at least from the person I was talking to, saying, hey, no, actually, it's complete crap for that. I would never do that. Nonetheless, but it seems like this is really only geared towards programming. And I'm just trying to apply this to other fields. Like, what other fields could we do this with? I'm not really, I don't know of many. I don't want a robot dentist. But agriculture wouldn't use an LLM. we've already had autonomous agriculture for like 10 years now. It's easier than self-driving, right? You can just like go in a straight line and then go in the next straight line and then go in the next straight line. Yeah, music is interesting. Music is kind of funny. Here, hold on one second. Flip, take out this just quick moment while I'm like searching for this. All right, hold on. Take out this quick moment while I'm searching. Held, hodl, heldle, holdle, hodl, hoodle, hodel. I should have saved this somewhere. Actually, I think I did. Did I save it? I don't even know. Hold on. Just give me a second. Let me just do a bit of scrolling.
And talk about one other dimension that I think is very unique. Not only is there a new type of programming language that allows for autonomy in software, but also, as I mentioned, it's programmed in English, which is this natural interface. And suddenly, everyone is a programmer because everyone speaks natural language like English. So this is extremely bullish and very interesting to me, and also completely unprecedented.
Everyone's not a programmer, right? I mean, you could make this like argument like 100 times over. Grace Hopper did this with like COBOL. Business people can be programmers now, right? Like there's a big difference between person sitting down and for an afternoon building something and wow, I got a sloth on a page versus, actually being a programmer. These are very different experiences. We all understand this.
It used to be the case that you need to spend 5 to 10 years studying something to be able to do something in software. This is not the case anymore. So I don't know if by any chance.
I don't think that's ever been the case. Most people were able to build stuff and do stuff after a short period of time. It's just building the experience and expertise to understand what is good and bad takes a decade. There's a little bit of a difference there, right? I think most people can be somewhat useful in programming after like 3 months. I could have somebody with only 6 months of experience fix some bugs for me, right? That doesn't mean they're great. They don't have a lot of experience. They don't really understand a lot of stuff, but you can't shortcut experience. So it's a little bit ridiculous.
Anyone has heard of vibe coding?
10 years.
This is the tweet that kind of like introduced this, but I'm told that this is now like a major meme. Fun story about this is that I've been on Twitter for like 15 years or something like that at this point, and I still have no clue which tweet will become viral and which tweet like fizzles and no one cares. And
I feel like I have a pretty good one. Like, I think that tweet that I just got done tweeting will probably not exceed 600 likes. That's my guess. It's not that great of one, and I don't think it's going to hit home. And so it's like one of those things where there's some tweets that like I just feel like right? Challenge and bait accepted, right?
I thought that this tweet was going to be the latter. I don't know, it was just like a shower of thoughts, but this became like a total meme, and I really just can't tell. But I guess like it struck a chord and it gave a name to something that everyone was feeling.
Trash said lots of things stupid
say in words. So now there's a Wikipedia page and everything. This is like. Yeah, this is like a major contribution now or something like that. So, so Tom Wolfe from Hugging.
I have no idea why everyone was clapping. I don't know, but hey, let's all clap together. It was exciting, okay?
They shared this beautiful video that I really love. These are kids vibe coding. And I find that this is such a wholesome video. Like, I love this video.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, there's going to be a couple of those kids that end up being programmers.
The future is great. I think this will end up being
vibe coding is a great gateway drug into learning that programming is really difficult, and then you have to go and learn it. See, I don't hate it. I don't hate that. I love seeing it. Hey, let's go. Great. Obviously, the only person that's going to become a programmer in this whole group is this kid, already chicken necking so hard. Bro already has that nice golden ratio spinal cord being developed. He's ready to become an expert level programmer, okay? You can just tell right away. This man was built like a programmer. But seriously, though, like I actually like seeing these things. The reason why I like seeing these things is that you want someone, like, all you need to become a great programmer is that spark of curiosity and like some sort of satiation of that curiosity that makes you excited to do it again. Now, here's the deal is that back in like the 1990s, you didn't have even Doom at that point. So you didn't have like all this crap. You didn't have YouTube. You didn't have shorts. You didn't have all this brain rot. So if vibe coding can make you see a bunch of stuff happen quickly and it gets your brain to say, hey, this is actually cool, let's go. I'm in for the spark. I'm in for the spark. Let's go. I just want that spark for all the I want that spark, right? That's it. I don't care how you get started, right? I want to see I just want to see something happen, you know what I mean? More action, more energy. Exactly.
Like a gateway drug to software development.
Yeah, gateway drug, let's go.
I'm not a doomer about the future of the generation, and I think
I'm a bit more of a doomer than he is.
So I tried vibe coding a little bit as well because it's so fun. So vibe coding is so great when you want to build something super duper custom that doesn't appear to exist and you just want to wing it because it's a Saturday or something like that. So I built this iOS app, and I can't actually program in Swift, but I was really shocked that I was able to build like a super basic app, and I'm not going to explain it. It's really dumb. But I kind of this was just like a day of work, and this was running on my phone like later that day, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't have to like read through Swift for like 5 days or something like that to like get started.
Man, that's great.
I also vibe coded this app called MenuGen, and this is live. You can try it in menugen.app. And I basically had this problem where I show up at a restaurant, I read through the menu, and I have no idea what any of the things are, and I need pictures. So this doesn't exist. So I was like, hey, I'm going to vibe code it. So this is what it looks like. You go to menugen.app, and
the name.
you take a picture of a
Is the
menu,
MenuGen.
and then MenuGen generates the images. And everyone gets $5 in credits for free when you sign up. And therefore,
look at that shrimp. Dude, come on. Tell me that it's not. Tell me it's not like a little scary sometimes.
Of a menu, and then MenuGen generates the images. And everyone gets $5 in credits for free when you sign up.
Look at that shrimp. Look at it. What's going on? Yeah. I mean,
and therefore,
interesting.
this is a major cost center in my life. So this is a negative revenue app for me right now. I've lost a huge amount of money on MenuGen. Okay, but the fascinating thing about MenuGen for me is that the code of the vibe coding part, the code was actually the easy part of vibe coding MenuGen.
Ooh, I think this is gonna be a good section. Look at this. Look at all the things he's saying here. Okay, this is where we got to put on our we really got to think about what's about to be said here, because this is going to be, I think, one of the big dangers of LLMs. I can already feel it.
And most of it actually was when I tried to make it real so that you can actually have authentication and payments and the domain name and a versatile deployment. This was really hard, and all of this was not code. All of this DevOps stuff was in me in the browser clicking
taking button. Well, I mean, technically, there's also a lot of code with it too.
stuff. And this was extreme slog and took another week. So it was really fascinating that I had the MenuGen basically demo working on my laptop in a few hours, and then it took me a week because I was trying to make it real. And the reason for this is this was just really annoying. So for example, if you try to add Google login to your web page, I know this is very small, but just a huge amount of instructions of this clerk library telling me how to integrate this. And this is crazy. Like, it's telling me, go to this URL, click on this dropdown, choose this, go to this, and click on that. And it's like telling me what to do. Like a computer is telling me the actions I should be taking. Like, you do it. Why am I doing this? What the hell? I had to follow all these instructions. This was crazy. So I think the last part of my talk, therefore, focuses on, can we just...
Also, think about how many things are going to be built and forced in LLMs to use certain libraries, right? Like, when he said he wanted authentication, he used Clerk. Right? That's a paid-for service. So how much of that is going to start... There's a whole like momentum there that is kind of really interesting, where it's like, hey, I need this. Here, use this paid-for service. Where does hashtag ad start and where does it end? I don't know.
build for agents?
Locked in, baby.
I don't want
We're
to
getting
do this
locked
work.
in.
Can agents do this? Thank you. Okay. So roughly speaking, I think there's a new category of consumer and manipulator of digital information. It used to be just humans through GUIs or computers through APIs. And now we have a completely new thing. And agents they're computers, but they are human-like, kind of, right? They're people spirits. There's people spirits on the internet, and they need to
I do not like the term people spirits. I'll accept people reflections. I'm more of in the term reflection than anything else, but spirit is way too much.
interact with our software infrastructure.
I just
Like, can
refuse
we
to use
build
it.
for them? It's a new thing. So as an example, you can have robots.txt on your domain, and you can instruct or like advise, I suppose, web crawlers on how to behave on your website. In the same way, you can have maybe LLMs.txt file, which is just a simple markdown that's telling LLMs what this domain is about. And this is
I'm confused why you'd even need this. Honestly, I thought that, because the reality is that there's more HTML pages out there than there are markdown pages. So you would assume that LLMs would be pretty good at extracting information.
very readable to an LLM. If it had to instead get the HTML of your web page and try to parse it, this is very error-prone and difficult, and we'll screw it up, and it's not going to work. So we can just directly speak to the LLM. It's worth it. A huge amount of documentation is currently written for people. So you will see things like lists and bold and pictures, and this is not directly accessible by an LLM. So I see some of the services now are transitioning a lot of their docs to be specifically for LLMs. So Vercel and Stripe, as an example, are early movers here, but there are a few more.
Classic Lee W. Lee's a smart guy. I guess in that sense, yeah, that makes sense. Like, hey, we're going to remove all barriers / like movement required, any sort of interaction required, and we're going to inline our entire documentation into something that's like markdown, so that makes it really easy to navigate and understand. That makes sense. People, spirits, or demons? Yeah, you might be right. I don't like that term.
They offer
I don't
their
want Joe
documentation
Demons in my
Markdown.
brain.
Markdown is super easy for LLMs to understand.
That's just a sitemap. It really
great.
is just a sitemap.
Maybe one simple example from my experience as well. Maybe some of you know 3 Blue 1 Brown. He makes beautiful animation videos on YouTube. Yeah, I love this library so that he wrote Manin. And I wanted to make my own. And there's extensive documentations on how to use Manin. And so I didn't want to actually read through it. So I copy-pasted the whole thing to an LLM, and I described what I wanted, and it just worked out of the box. Like, LLM just vibe-coded me in animation exactly what I wanted, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. So if we can make docs legible to LLMs, it's going to unlock a huge amount of kind of use. And I think this is wonderful and should happen more.
You know how we were talking about this on the stand-up, how like everything has kind of got inshitified. Like when I press post, there's like a multiple second delay. When I click out of this, there's a multiple second delay. And it's just like everything is being built onto something else, and it's just like slow, and it's just as terrible. I do feel like this kind of approach, one thing that's kind of missing in this talk is that everything he's suggesting is that you just never need to learn anything. Which I guess the real question is, when do you learn to have expertise? Like real talk, when should you learn to have expertise? I agree with him. Like, if I just wanted to make a simple one single animation that involved math and there's Manim, do I really want to learn Manim just to do one single animation? I think you're right. Probably not. Like, this is a good, like, to me, this is where I'm like, okay, this is why I like LLMs, is this exact thing. And so I go back and forth on this, is like, I always try to answer this question, when does it matter? But I find myself that bleeding goes backwards. Like, my ability to work with Tailwind has gone down over the last 2 years. Instead of being able to just jump on and tailwind myself up any side I wanted, my ability to do that has greatly shrunk because I'm just not using it anymore ever, because I'm just like, dude, I don't want to touch any of this. Make it happen. But maybe I should have just got super good at doing that, so that way I can build everything I want really quick, the way I want it, as fast as possible, instead of all this. I don't know. This is just me spitballing. Maybe I should have not lost that little bit of talent. I'm tail wounded. Or maybe I could, I don't care about the whole CSS Tailwind argument. Honestly, I built Tailwind before Tailwind was Tailwind in CSS, back when I used to do nothing but CSS and JavaScript. And all I would do is just go out there and have to hand roll these like little semantic libraries that I'd be like, left, clear fix, M2, P2, clear fix. A lot of clear fix, right? We've all built our own version of Tailwind if you've done any level of of CSS in your life. It's just now I just have one tool that kind of works all the time. So I'm happy. Float right with 100. Yeah, dude, I've done that so many times in my life. Holy cow. Clearfix
The other
was
thing
the
I wanted
goat.
to point out is that you do unfortunately have to, it's not just about taking your docs and making them appear in Markdown. That's the easy part.
Yeah,
We
flow
actually have to
layouts. Oh,
change
I
the
did a
docs.
lot of floating.
Because anytime your docs say click, this is bad. An LLM will not be able to natively take this action right now. So Vercel, for example, is replacing every occurrence of click with the equivalent curl command that your LLM agent could take on your behalf. And so I think this is very interesting. And then, of course, there's a model context protocol from Anthropic, and this is also another way. It's a protocol of speaking directly to agents as this new consumer and manipulator of digital information. So I'm very bullish on these ideas. The other thing
Just brushed right over MCPs. Yeah, at the end.
I really like is a number of little tools here and there that are
Yeah,
helping
Flexbox
ingest
is the best part.
data that
Agreed.
in like very LLM-friendly formats. So for example, when I go to a GitHub repo, like my NanoGPT repo, I can't feed this to an LLM and ask questions about it because it's, this is a human interface on GitHub. So when you just change the URL from GitHub to git ingest, then this will actually concatenate all the files into a single.
I see someone saying they forced Tailwind on my job. Honestly, I think there's a lot of great things about Tailwind. I would just use it and try to enjoy it for the way you want to enjoy it and see how it goes. And if you have good reasons to say why it's bad, at least use it for a little bit. I wouldn't go too negative, honestly, as someone who's hand-rolled all my CSS for years and then doing this, it's just like, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to like this. There's a lot of reasons to like Tailwind.
Giant text, and it will create a directory structure.
Oh, what's bullish? Bullish, okay, so it comes from the stock market, bulls and bears. If you're bearish on the market, it means that you think that the market is not going to be going up. So are you bearish or are you bullish on Netflix today? So let's take a look. I think Netflix has gone up. I'm bullish on Netflix long term. So I think it's, I generally think it's going to be going up. Boom. Dude, look at that. We're doing so good. Bros, we're retiring. Screw streaming. I'm going into investing, right? And so bulls go up, bears go down.
Into your favorite
So
LLM,
if you're bullish,
and
you think
can
that it's going to be good in the future.
Maybe even more dramatic example of this is DeepWiki, where it's not just the raw content of these files. This is from Devin, but also like they have Devin basically do analysis of the GitHub repo, and Devin basically builds up a whole docs page just for your repo. And you can imagine that this is even more helpful to copy paste into your LLM. So I love all the little tools that basically just change the URL.
I'm curious if that even helps at all. Right, like I have no idea if this kind of stuff helps or not with an LLM. Right, that's what I got to figure out on this one is like, does that help at all? Because I've given a lot of context to these models, and I have done some investigation into some cursor rules, and like at the end of the day, like when you get too much context, there's like a lot of weird linear things that it does. It's just weird. I just get these weird experiences. So I don't know. Devin was a disappointment. I mean, are you that big of a surprise? It's not Devin that was the disappointment. Honestly, Devin was one of the coolest piece of technologies ever. The thing that was driving it was the LLM still. The LLM is the disappointment. It's not Devin. Devin did an incredible job. It's the thing below it that's doing all the running and decision making. I know this might be a hard pill to swallow. It's not that great.
URL, and it makes something accessible to an LLM.
Devin
so this is
just
all
a
well
rapper.
great, and I think there should be a lot more of it. One more note I wanted to make is that it is absolutely possible that in the future, LLMs will be able to, this is not even future, this is today, they'll be able to go around and they'll be able to click stuff and so on. But I still think it's very worth basically meeting LLMs halfway, and making it easier for them to access all this information. Because this is still fairly expensive, I would say, to use and a lot more difficult. And so I do think that lots of software, there will be a long tail where it won't adapt because these are not like live player sort of repositories or digital infrastructure, and we will need these tools.
Hold on one second. I gotta go pee. I just can't hold it.
So in summary,
I really don't understand that last part with this whole operator business. I don't really know what's happening here. I don't think I get it. I don't think I understand. Is it supposed to be it just clicks? Is that the whole thing? Is that it goes off and clicks for you? Okay.
So in summary, what an amazing time to get into the industry. We need to rewrite a ton of code. A ton of code will be written by professionals and vibe coders. These LLMs are kind of like utilities, kind of like fabs, but they're kind of especially like operating systems. But it's so early. It's like 1960s of operating systems.
I really think you should just think of it like none of those three, honestly. I'm just going to come out and say it. I just don't think you should think of any of it that way, right? I don't think you should think of it as an operating system or a fab or any of that. I think you should just simply think of them as black box statistical generators, and what goes in, you'll have the statistically most likely output of it. That's it. A very interesting take to think of it as an OS. I really just am not loving the OS thing, honestly. I think it's just that you could draw this in any way, right? You could say, okay, well, the LLM's actually more like a TV, okay? And you could have all these I/O and O things and the Ethernet. Like, you could just replace this with TV, and it pretty much just works the exact same way. You have things coming in, things coming out, and it displays the thing that's supposed to be coming in. Right? I don't know. You could just replace it with anything, because it's just an analogy that just takes such a huge idea and reduces it down to like 4 points. And it's just like, I just don't think it's like this. Right. Because I will say this, that there's a lot to OSs in operating systems, and they don't have like, they don't work under the same guise. Like, I wouldn't even like track of it in the same way. Operating systems were really a victim of the time they were in, right? Like the whole round robin sharing one computer is because we just didn't know how to build physical computers that could go fast. We didn't have the technology to then build the next thing that was better. At one point, apparently there was like a very specific group of people from an island who could thread needles through tiny hoops better than anybody else. And for a long time, how we built RAM was specifically hiring those people to thread a wire through these loops to build RAM. Like, this was just a normal part of life for a while in building computers. Like, that's crazy now for us to think about. That sounds made up. It was in my college class. That's all. I'm just reciting what my teacher says. Maybe my teacher made it up for me. But yeah, this is what this is like a reality of life, is that there is a certain level. We can look it up. Well, in fact, you know what? We should try to look that up. It's wild to think about that. But there was a time where we had the hand roll RAM, right? RAM was literally hand rolled. It takes 6 transistors to make RAM, right? You had to actually build the things, right? And so operating systems were a victim of what they could run on. Like, that's it. That's all there is to it, right? It's true. They used expert weavers. Yeah, I know. I know there was a thing about it, but I believe there was also like a certain group of people from somewhere that were also just like somehow statistically better weavers than everybody else. But this was a thing. They actually used experts at rolling RAM. It was insane. Anyways, that's besides the point. Is that, you know, the whole operating system thing is that they are completely bound to these things. I don't think we have the same bounding, in the sense that our GPUs aren't, we are like hitting literal physical, we're hitting like the world of light limits on what we're building. We're not like, dang, we're still in the mechanical era and we haven't hit the digital era. Unless if this is like the longest way to say quantum computers. Unless if we're about to get to quantum AI. But we're like kind of hitting the limit of things right now. And so we're really like, we're at the end. And so it's hard to say LLMs are like operating systems in the 60s, and they're about to get so better and so different in the next couple years, because the difference between 1968 and 1972 was insane. But I don't feel like, I personally don't feel like anything but like video quality has obviously gone way up. Sound quality has gone way up. I'm not really sold that like programming code. I don't feel like code has gotten that much better over the course of the last year and a half. Like, I feel the same way I felt about LLM code every single time I see it. I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that, it sucks. Oh, what's that? Yeah, I see that, it sucks. Oh, what's this one? Yeah, I see that, it sucks. I don't feel like it's gotten I've heard a lot of people say it's gotten worse, but I don't know if I believe them either. I think there's some things that might have gotten a little bit better, but it definitely is not the same. Anyways, so it's hard for me to like make these analogies, because then if you think of it like this, you might like put on this guise, or you might put this understanding on that somehow we're in 1960s operating systems and we're going to go to 1970s operating systems here shortly, which is an insane difference, right? I don't know if we're going to be hitting insane LLM differences. I have no idea what it's going to be like. All I know is we are like absolutely destroying the utmost, pushing the limits of physical bounds right now in our computing hardware. So, well, that is bullish. It is bullish. It's very bullish. I guess you're right. The man said he was bullish. This is very bullish. All right.
And I think a lot of the analogies cross over. And these LLMs are kind of like these fallible, people spirits that we have to learn to work with. And in order to do that properly, we need to adjust our infrastructure towards it. So when you're building these LLM apps, I described some of the ways of working effectively
linear algebra
with
that's
these
been
LLMs,
reduced
and some of the
least
tools
error.
that make that possible, and how you can spin this loop very, very quickly, and basically create partial autonomy products. And then, a lot of code has to also.
Let's see, hold on. Maybe it hasn't improved much in other fields. You just don't have but you just perceive that way because you don't have experience. Well, I can say that it's much better at video, right? Like we can all say it's much better at video. You remember the Will Smith eating spaghetti thing, and then you see it today. My only argument is that most of the errors that existed in the Will Smith spaghetti eating video still exists in videos today. They're just much more hidden, but all the dimensions and the perceptions and things are all slightly off. That just makes it super confusing. Like when you look at it, you're like, this is insane, right? Core rope memory woven by female workers in factories. Yeah, I know this. I know this was a thing, but I believe there was a group of people that were very, very, very specifically good at core rope memory. Anyways, I'd have to go look it up. Now I'm motivated to go look it up. So when I'm done with this, I'm going to have to go look it up. Right? So there is we can all objectively say that video has gotten better. Music has gotten better, obviously. I mean, I played that banger of a tune for us.
From the ceiling to the shopping malls.
From the ceiling to the shopping malls. Classic thing. Because, sometimes you have yoga balls stacked from the floor to the ceiling all the way to the shopping mall because it rhymes.
Wow, that's a lot of yoga balls. The warehouse.
It's just like such a stupid ending to that. It just makes me giggle so much because it's so commercial music. It's so good, dude. Okay, hold on. We're gonna listen to this for just a touch longer. There's a thing in here that it's like people are gonna die. Hold on.
House groans under the weight. Delivery trucks all running late. Neighbors peek and start to sprawl as I inflate each yoga ball. Wow, that's a lot of yoga balls. Rolling down the hills like waterfalls. Neighbors shouting, cancel the calls. Wow, that's a lot of yoga balls.
All right, hit it with that bridge. Let's go.
They bounce and roll, they never stop. One just
All right,
took
listen
out
to
the
this.
barber shop. Who knew one hackathon could spawn a yoga ball apocalypse and die?
Yoga ball apocalypse and die. What is that? Like, why do we have to die in this song? This song was so positive, and then it's just like, and yoga ball apocalypse, and we all die. You're just like, why? Why do you have to do this to the banger? You made it so confusing. I did not catch that. Yeah, it's crazy. Hidden message. AI bias revealed. Dude, it's weird how many AI songs will just have and everybody dies.
Be written for the agents more directly. But in any case, going back to the Iron Man suit analogy, I think what we'll see over the next decade, roughly, is we're going to take the slider from left to right, and it's going to be very interesting to see what that looks like.
I think we will too.
And I can't wait to build it with all of you.
I'm just more pessimistic on that other side. Part of me thinks that slider is going to result in incredibly frustrating services. Right? Like, I just feel like it just has. By the way, it's also kind of nuts that you did like a little generation of Iron Man, right? Is this AI generated? I don't remember Tony Stark. I don't remember. This does not look like RDJ. Okay, I don't know who that is, but I feel like Disney might need to sue some asses coming up here. Okay, Chad Stark. It's definitely Chad Stark, but right? Isn't Disney already suing? Disney's suing somebody, right? Right now over AI generation. This would be this is definitely AI because there's just too many things popping out of it. It's like doesn't make any sense. Like what the heck's going on here? And so look at this. Yeah, Disney's suing Midjourney, right? Oh, they're suing Midjourney. Yeah, I knew they were suing. I just couldn't remember which image generation they were suing, but they're suing Midjourney. Look at this image. Where do you think they got? How would this image know what Iron Man looks like? Ronaldo is suing. Ronaldo. Like how would the AI know? This is Antonio. This is Antonio. This is Antonio. Antonio Ben Arnan. Georgia. Fair use. Is it fair use? Is that what that's called? Maybe it's not. Maybe that's just a toy. Is it just a toy? Is this whole time that's just a toy? Oh, maybe this is a toy. Oh, look at that. Oh, it is a toy. Dang. Okay, so it wasn't AI. I thought this was AI because these little flaps right here are so weird. My mind couldn't comprehend what they're doing. I told you that like 5 minutes ago. Dude, I'm in the world. Remember, we already talked about this. Okay? What is it? Everything you see, you're going to attribute now to AI. Because everything I can't help it now. Now everything feels like AI. Because I can't believe my lying eyes anymore. Anyways, all right, great video though. There's a lot of good things he had to say in this video. It's pretty surprising. I guess to me, because he's obviously an AI glazer. I'm a bit more of an AI gloomer. I wouldn't call myself a doomer. I'm more of just a gloomer, right? Just generally speaking, I don't think it's that fantastic. I've tried over and over again to vibe code. I think there's things that are really great about it, right? Like if I never ever want to deal with some like Manim, the math library to make an animation, like I could just use AI, and that there is something pretty exciting about that. And so like I get this, and I get his ideas, and him being a glazer. It's interesting. I didn't really like his analogies of what AIs were because I feel like they're just too simplistic. I kind of feel like maybe he could have used it as like a brief passing, but there's so much like analogizing to these things that I kind of got lost in the sauce, right? I was getting a bit lost in the sauce on what he was trying to say or what I was supposed to take away. Like AI as a utility, it feels hard other than you're claiming that tokens are like the physical medium like energy is for electricity, I don't know. I was just having a hard time, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. I really was happy about it. Great talk. Good job, Andre, for that one. I know some people might think I'm a bit negative on things. I'm not trying to be negative. Oh, by the way, friends, let the video play all the way to the end.
Thank you.
I noticed I forgot to let it play all the way to the end. Okay. Okay, did you hear me, you two? Don't forget to play till the end. You friends do that, okay? Anyways, hey, thank you very much. The name is theprimeagen. It's true. That's my name. It's who I am. Oh, did I like? Oh, I don't think I liked. You're right. I don't think I liked that video. Here we go. I'm already subscribed to Y Combinator. So in your face, devil. Yeah. Go watch it. Make your own opinions about things. Right? That's what you should do. Make your own opinions. Don't listen to me. right? You can listen to me and bounce ideas off of. That's the whole point of this, by the way, is that I try to listen and try to make ideas. And that's it. Y Combinator. Apparently, the guy who's leading it doesn't like it being called Y Com. That's what I think it's new, or Y Coom. I think that's the new name, okay? Y Coom. We're going to call it Y Coom, right? Y Comb. Y Comb. Dude, Y Coom. Why coom? Why are we cooming? Dog, why are we cooming? All right. Bye. I love you. Good night. Also, I'm going to go. Goodbye. It's way past my bedtime. Okay, it's not past my bedtime, but you get the idea. It's time for me to get the heck out of here. Who we rating? 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 We got Healthy Gamer GGG. I'm going to be on a show here in like 20 days. I know we had to redo it. We got Yearjoy, Alt F4. Who we rating? Who we rating? Who we rating? Who we rating? We just rated Justine the last time I streamed, I think. Healthy Gamer. I'm not going to do Sasha. I've already talked about it. Oh, PewDiePie is not, that's not a real account. That's not, if PewDiePie's on here, it's not a real account. It's like a 24/7 playing stream. Janet is on. Jeanette. Wait, where's Jeanette? Wait, where is Jeanette? I don't see no Jeanette. I don't see Jeanette. Miko. There's code Miko. There's Annie. Warhammer 40K. Healthy Gamer. Rate the doc. There's no doc on here. All right, we'll do Annie. Let's go. Asmon. Asmon's not streaming. Let's go, dude. I haven't played this game in a while. This was a fun game. I actually had quite the blast of doing... I enjoyed this game quite a bit.
Ouch.
This game was great. Wait, is TJ on? You can't keep saying these things. TJ is not on. I did not see TJ on here. Stop lying to me. Stop doing that thing. Zachrar is not on here, right? There is Zachrar. Oh, okay, I must have missed him. Too bad. It's too late. Already rating Annie, so screw you guys.
Execute.
Screw you guys. I'm leaving y'all. Yeah, I know, Zachrar. No raid chest. It's already too late. Bye, Boomer. Bye, also Boomer. It's been real. Raid Karen.